right, we'll get started here. This is a hybrid meeting of the City Council. Members of the public can view this meeting live on Channel 8, the city's website, and YouTube. Live Spanish translation services are being provided for tonight's council meeting by telephone. Please dial 720-386-9023 and use code 104091 *. The city clerk is the host of the Zoom meeting. Speakers will be able to unmute themselves when recognized. I call the study session to order. First up, I'd like to invite Travis Huntington, Community Relations Manager, give a presentation.
Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem, members of City Council. Appreciate the opportunity to chat with you here this evening about our brand new city website that launched here at the end of July. So again, Travis Huntington, Community Relations Manager. Here just to walk you through a little bit of how we got to where we are and some of the features that we'd like to highlight on the new website for you. So first and foremost, just a bit of a recap on the process leading up to this. The prior city website had launched back in 2017. A lot of new opportunities, of course, had emerged since then, opportunities for improvement, some new schools of thought in web design, new technologies that have emerged. So in 2023, started a discussion about how to go about a redesign process. Went through a formal solicitation and an RFP process, and City Council approved the contract with the vendor known as Granicus in June of 2024. Then later that same year, Colorado's new accessibility law took initial effect. Now, it also did have a 1-year grace period for compliance to be achieved. So it was July of 2025 before that law took full effect in terms of jurisdictions having to make sure to be up to snuff, so to speak, on the new guidelines. So later that fall, started the process with the vendor, a lot of examination of other jurisdictions' websites, improvements, opportunities in the technology that we could take advantage of, and a lot of conceptual conversations started before really this year's when really the meat of creating the new website really began. We developed it throughout the course of the earlier part of this year, and then in July 31st, we launched the new website. And we still, at this point, the economic development subsite and the employee intranet are still the old sites, as the new ones are still being developed for those. So the new economic development website is currently in development and will be launched probably in Q4. We hope to have our hands on it here within the next few weeks. And then also the employee intranet site will be relaunched at that point as well. Constantly collecting feedback on what the city's website environment is doing and not doing for, obviously, our users. So we conducted a survey here just this summer. Also had one back at the start of the process in late 2023 into 2024. And again, constantly collecting that feedback as we hear from residents, community members, businesses, all those folks who are utilizing our website environment. These are some key takeaways here from some of the most recent surveying that we've done. We're up to now 58% of folks saying that they're primarily using mobile to use the website. That number has continually grown over the years as more and more people are just accessing the web on the daily using their mobile phones. Obviously, tablets are still a chunk of that, but mobile is the largest chunk, followed by people on desktops or laptops, and then tablets would be the next set of users. In our most recent surveying, we had different options, and about 90% of the respondents said they wanted to see more visual elements than what the prior website was offering, either mostly visual or a mix of text and visual. What we heard from why are people primarily visiting the city website, as you might expect, programs and city services, of course, were one of the primary areas, various different programs and services, obviously, that folks are looking for, and then city news and events. And even despite some of its shortcomings, the old site still, in our most recent surveying, actually still rated 3.76 out of 5 stars at that time. The new website really took a long look at a lot of the shortcomings or things that had either grown outdated or were not as effective on the old site over time. So this is just a list of things that we directly aimed to address throughout the process when we were looking at how to improve upon what the city's website was doing for folks, how people used it, interacted with it, what the usability factors of it were going to be. And what you see right here, really making the look and feel cleaner, more modernized was one of the more important things. We tried to improve the visual interactive aspects of it, make it more visually appealing. That's something we'll continue to work toward, and there will still be plenty of opportunities to keep doing that. A lot of new features on the website. The homepage includes opportunities to come at information in different ways, which was one of our primary goals, was to try and help folks come about the information that they're looking for, regardless of maybe what that perspective might be, or some people are going to do it this way and some people are going to do it that way. So we wanted to try and find different avenues to access information, and hopefully a lot of cross-linking and a lot of opportunities to find things in different ways to hopefully avoid some of the navigation difficulty. We have better menus. There's a lot more flexibility and customization opportunity on the new site. And one of the most important things, as you just saw from that mobile mention of 58% of people accessing the site via mobile, was the new site had to be much more mobile responsive than what the old one was. And that certainly was one of our biggest priorities. And then we also have an improved forms functionality and some features that we're still, frankly, learning about how they can continue to help us as we move forward. So those are some of the just quick hitters on some of the main highlights, things we were trying to improve. Of course, as with any new technology rollout, not everything has been perfect. We have had a few little hiccups along the way here. I will say, generally speaking, the rollout of the new site has been pretty smooth in my experience compared to having done this before. But there's certainly opportunities to keep learning how some of these tools can continue to help us. In the photo right there, those are two of the main tools that we introduced on the city homepage that are brand new and different ways to access information. We're excited about the address function, where folks can actually put in an address of where they are, and they can find city facilities, parks, events, all of those things that are close to where they may be, and we hope to find more ways to continue utilizing that function as we go. Still working through, again, some tweaks and some updates and revisions. Obviously, we've learned some lessons along the way here about some of the usability of the new site, some of the email notification systems that we have in place. We had some technology tweaks and then some workflow things that we're still working through to make sure that everyone's getting everything they say. I know everybody who visited the site early on was very annoyed by the pop-up window. Thankfully, that has been fixed. Yeah, sorry about that. That was a development issue out of the gate, but luckily that is corrected now. So I'm not going to say it'll never come back, but probably not anytime soon. We also have opportunities to train the search functionality on our website as we start to hear about either things that are difficult to find or things that people aren't able to access maybe as well as we've hoped. We can hopefully continue to train the search functionality on the website, and we can also, again, structure information with cross-linking and putting things in places to really hopefully help people find things as easily and most effectively as possible in the shortest amount of time. And we're still continuing to tweak and revise some of the accessibility improvements. This is a vastly improved website from an accessibility standpoint over what the old one was. We do still have a few improvements that we can continue to make, though, so that is certainly not a victory. The process is certainly not over with. That's something that we can continue to revise and improve for users through a wide variety of accessibility standards and issues that we can continue to work toward. So some things that we're still working on and working toward. I mean, a website's never really finished. It is always a work in progress and will always continue to be improved. So we're still learning about some of the way, practically speaking, some of these new improved features can really function for us here and how we can, again, help folks get access to the right information. Trying to take a little bit more of a global look at some aspects of our website, i.e. even some community partners and services that aren't necessarily provided by the city, trying to provide a little more linking out to other partners or other organizations in the community who can still help people get what they're looking for. Because a lot of people don't know if it's the city or the county or a nonprofit, who might provide some level of service. So again, more opportunities will come to continue improving, tweaking, and adding to what we've done so far. And then, of course, again, as I mentioned off the top there, coming later this year, a brand new site for the Economic Development Division is coming our way. That is in development right now. Excited about the opportunity to work with them and make sure that the website is working toward all of their goals, and working very closely with their team to make sure that that website is effectively meeting the needs for economic development and their team. And then obviously the employee intranet site will be coming up as well. Also, the city has purchased a contract with a company called Zen City, who does some really exciting engagement work and platforms that they have available to us. Also, there's two really primary tools with Zen City. One of them is a front-end engagement tool that we're really excited about being able to implement here. We're still in the training process with their team and understanding all these different ways it can help us, but really hoping that it can help streamline the way we are asking residents, community members to interact and engage, whether it's through a survey or just getting information about a project, updates, contact information. We're hoping that that's a platform that can really help streamline what we do and make it easier and more consistent so folks can understand what they're looking for and get used to seeing it the same way. So Zen City's very excited. And then on the back end, it's got sentiment analysis. It's got a lot of really useful tools for us to look through what's the conversation like online about what's happening around the city, about our website environment. What are people saying? What are they looking for? What are they needing? And for us to really be able to take an analytical look at a lot of that and find opportunities, again, to continue to serve those needs. So that'll still be coming and probably won't be fully implemented here until we get it into early part of next year to really take advantage of all the tools that will have at its disposal. Always gathering content about the website. Right now on our featured content section, we're directly asking for feedback for the new website. We will intend to continue doing that. Really, it never stops. Again, you're always trying to take in that information and find out what is working, what isn't, what are people needing, what are they finding and not finding. So that will continue, again, in our conversations, whether it's on social media, at city events, through these various platforms. We're always trying to take in that feedback, even things that you all are hearing and, other members of staff and departments. People are telling us they can't find X or Y, and we need to work on that and make it easier. So we'll always continue to do that and continue to try to find opportunities for improvement. And with some of the flexibility and the new tools we have, I think we have an opportunity to be more responsive to some of those requests and feedback loops than what we've been able to do previously. So that really is the meat of it, more or less, about what we hope that everyone's experiencing with the new website. So happy to take any questions you may have.
All right, thank you, Travis.
Yeah.
Appreciate the way it all turned out. Councilmember Kim.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Travis, for the presentation. I got just two questions. I think you touched on it a little bit as far as the survey and feedback functionality that's on there. Just out of curiosity, I mean, what has been some of the preliminary feedback you have received, if any at all?
Yes, thank you for that. I will say, generally speaking, we actually have a feedback form right there on the homepage, and we don't have too many responses on that one just yet. But from some of what we've seen and being able to show it to folks at Music in the Park and seeing some of those kind of things, just that initial eye test reaction has been, I will say, very positive from a usability standpoint. People just like the way it looks better. It looks a little cleaner, and people seem to be, from the experience we've had so far, having an easier time using it. We've really tried to take a different approach from the way the menus are structured, the way the navigation is built with this new site, to really take those primary things that we think people are most likely looking for and trying to put them right in front of you, quick and easy. Again, hopefully reducing the number of clicks, reducing the amount of hunting around that you have to do. And so far that seems to be working pretty effectively, and we'll continue to collect that feedback as we go.
Thank you for that. And my next question is regarding ADA compliancy, as far as are we fully compliant, or are we still working through some of the aspects of that for the new website?
So the state rulemaking process has actually gone through a couple incarnations since the accessibility law took effect. So I will say we are compliant right now with what the state has deemed in terms of compliant. Now, in this case, that does not mean every single thing on our website is 100% perfect, but that also means that in the event that we know of something that maybe doesn't quite meet the full WCAG standard, that we are going to make sure that we can provide a reasonable accommodation to someone who needs that. For example, we have some master plans that were passed long before the law took effect and things along those lines. It's actually not required to go back and make those documents fully fully compliant. As you all know, there's been master plans from 2013, 2010, things along those lines that are still on the website. Those are allowed to be there. And in the event someone needs that accommodation, we would just work to make sure to get them the information in a format that met their needs. So that's an example. Not everything is perfect, but we are compliant on the site right now.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's all I got. Thanks, Mayor.
Sure. Councilmember Chacon.
Hi, Loves. Thank you for the presentation. I have a couple quick questions too. I noticed that at the top of the website looks like it has where you can go into Spanish and multilingual. That's really helpful. I'm assuming the whole website is going to have that.
Yes, that ribbon across the top right there to allow for multilingual translation is available on every page. And we can also continue. The nice thing is the new tool before, or the old website was completely dependent on what Google was offering, whereas the new site actually has a whole suite of languages that we can choose from. So if we ever hear of someone needing a certain language that we don't currently have, we can go back into the system, and in most cases, I think we should be able to add that. So that's very exciting.
That is awesome. One thing that I ask if we can see if staff can make sure that that also is kind of a process that's streamlined too. Let's say they're Spanish speaking and they come in for something with economic development, making sure that there's kind of a streamlined process after the website to kind of help, because the website presents so much so well. And then the second question that I have is there any way that we can offer, especially to our older community, an example, even a quick teach-in at a couple of the rec centers, and how to access the website? The reason that I say that is there's a lot of older community that, one, might not have access directly to the website. They might have to go to the library, that type of thing. And then two, I know that you're doing it with the fewest clicks, but just being able to help some of our older community just to see the examples. So it could be like an example day of our website, like here's a presentation, grand opening of it in a sense. I think that would be really, really helpful for our older community.
Yes, thank you for that. I think there will definitely be opportunities. I'm just thinking of the Senior Commission Lunch and Learn series that they do, things along those lines. And actually, I know Community Wellbeing is doing some digital literacy courses right now in conjunction with Servicios de la Raza. So those are a couple things that come to mind right away that we could definitely see about getting incorporated into those, and see if there's a chance to help walk people through just those basics. I think that's a good point on really how to use this thing if you're maybe not doing it every day. So
Thank you. I appreciate you.
All right.
thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Noble.
Thank you. It looks really great, Travis. Thank you so much. And people really do love seeing themselves. I mean, just as a thing, right? So the more we can have of that, the better. That's a really great asset to have on the website. So I'm glad it's moved in that direction. What I'm still having difficulty with are links that formerly existed. Mm-hmm. So if I did c3gov.com/ I can't get to what I want to get to. c3gov.com/council doesn't exist. It's a 404. City Council is a 404. Weekly update is a 404. Newsletter is a 404. Building is a 404. Planning is? Is there going to be a map, a site map that people can go to figure out where stuff got buried?
Sure. Absolutely. So there's a couple different things. First off, on the URL part of it, I will say there's a couple of different things at play there. I will say the vast majority of the what we call vanity URLs, where we create a special pathway to hopefully simplify and make it easy to remember and short, hopefully easy to type in. The majority of those do still work and have crossed over. Now, you did bring up a couple examples of a couple things like, for example, /building had been doubled up and there was a couple others. So if you go /building permits,
And also, city council or council doesn't have a link. I only do it on my cell phone as well, so.
so c3gov.com/council should work. That one should have come over.
Okay, I
So
just,
there's actually, but there's two, my response to that one is going to be two-tiered. So a lot of the vanity URLs that you'll see, the kind of things that's printed on a flyer or that we might have available in an area where it's not immediately clickable or something along those lines. Those vanity URLs did come over to the new site, but a lot of URLs, for example, if someone had a bookmark saved that had the exact site path, that link will have broken because a lot of the site paths did change because of there's new headings or different organizational structures. So that is certainly a byproduct, is that there are probably a lot of bookmarks that are broken if somebody just took the URL bar and favorited it and saved it. A lot of those will break just due to the nature of the new file pathways through a brand new system. But the majority of the vanity URLs should have come over. And yeah, I appreciate you giving those examples.
you're
I
absolutely
can go
right
back
about
and-
council, it does show. It is working.
Good.
You're right, my apologies.
But I can go check those other ones that you mentioned.
How would people sign up for the city manager's weekly update?
Yes, that one does have, the evil pop-up window that we put away also is one way to do that. But in the top bar of the website where it says city alerts right there, that is actually the email subscription function as well. And there are a couple other spots to find that as well. Under residents, there's a link to that as well. For get city alerts or c3gov.com/subscribe was the vanity URL. That we use for that. And that still works to be able to sign up for any of the various email notifications that we have, the city manager update being one of those. So the Week in Review report is on a list of checkboxes that you can choose from when you pick your subscriptions.
And if someone wanted to know what was happening in the meeting tonight, where would they go?
For city council news, for the most part, things like that usually we would put under our general city news and announcements heading. So like, for example, the city council promo that we put out each week that talks about that week's agenda, things along those lines, all of that would go out via the city news and announcements.
Is it on the website?
It is, yes. So that is a news feed and it's also a subscription checkbox on that list, for example.
Okay,
for
so it's
email
not a
notifications.
quick link, it is under news?
Yes, if you go to the news tab, that's the news feed or that I'm referring to. There is the city news and announcements, and then from an email standpoint, that's where you would go to that city alerts or the subscribe function. And when you type in your email, you can pick which lists you want to be subscribed to, so you can customize your experience.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Thanks.
Councilmember Douglas?
Thank you. Great job. I really have enjoyed using the site so far. Is there a way for people to, I see there's a What's Around Me where you can enter an address, but a lot of people want to know what ward they're in, their address is in, especially with the new maps. It's really hard to read the maps on the site in the PDFs, but they'd like to know what ward they're in and who is their ward representative.
You read my mind on that one.
Really?
That is a functionality that we're trying to get working on that, on the back end of loading all the information into the website system. So we're still needing to get with GIS and get the right map files entered into the mapping function so that it works properly.
All right.
But that is absolutely a goal there is actually an elected official function in that tool that we just don't have live yet, where we would hopefully, same idea, people could put in their address, it would tell them who their council member is for their ward, and things of that nature. So we're still trying to refine that and make sure that it works properly. So we don't have it live yet, but that's definitely a goal
Okay.
to work towards.
And I love the idea of training, and maybe we could set up something like at the library where they have all the computers set up.
Sure.
And help people that way with a training session. But, you know, the senior commission has talked about doing some kind of training on accessing the website. Do we have like a hotline for those people who don't have access to computers? Like they're homebound and they have a landline, they don't even have a cell phone?
Sure. I guess I don't know about like a hotline necessarily. I mean, we do have, you know, the main city, you know, line, the 3600, 289-3600 is the main city line that's answered through the city clerk's office, and then we can distribute out to there to various departments or things of that nature. We do have departmental contact information from cell phone, or sorry, not cell phones, from office departmental phone lines, emails, things along those lines that are on the website. And then always try to make sure that in Connected, in the city newsletter, since we know that is a printed piece, that in the event that folks, you know, don't have internet access or things along those lines, that we're making sure that there's resources available in there to at least get people started down the road, and we can get them connected with the right folks from there.
Yeah,
So,
a lot of times people will say that they can't reach a live person and all, but try to help those people out as much as possible. But I know it's frustrating for them, and so I don't want to have frustrated residents here.
Yeah.
But thank you so much. Wonderful job, and glad to hear that you're working on that aspect of getting people more information that they're looking for. So I'll tell them it's in the works. Thanks.
thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Dukes.
Just a comment, Travis, thank you for putting together this new website, you and your team. It looks great, and just thanks for all the work you put in the communications realm. And I have no other comments, just it looks great, and I do appreciate your comment earlier around you're going to modify as you hear feedback, and so it's an iterative process. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilmember T, did you have anything? No. Okay. Thanks again, Travis. Appreciate that. It's interesting to see other cities and other services, municipality, county, as everyone had to update their website to make it more user-friendly for all walks of life. So I really appreciate what this city has laid out and what's more to come. Councilmember Doug, did you have something else?
Thank you. So in addition to my question about the hotline, I was thinking about somebody who does have access to a computer and they get stuck, they don't know how to get to something that they're looking for. Is there a number that they could call for somebody to help them walk through it? Would that be through something we could offer through IT or?
So I would say for folks who are on the site and, you know, struggling or having a hard time, and actually I should go back to even, I forgot what Mayor Pro Tem had mentioned as well. There actually is a sitemap button at the bottom, at the very bottom of the page in the footer as well. There is a sitemap down there. And we've tried to make these different connections across different navigation areas to help connect the dots. You know, if you do get stuck in one spot, hopefully being able to get to a different spot. But then in regards to feedback there and difficulties, issues, that is, we actually do have something in Access C3 to where if folks are having an issue there, you can actually, you know, put in a request directly that goes to our team to help address, you know, a question, issue, concern about the website. And then there's email addresses mostly on the website. So if you do have internet access and you're on the site, it's usually emails that we do have available there. Again, whether you're running into a problem, requesting an accommodation, whatever that may be, to try and, you know,
So
get folks
who
that
would they
support.
email if they're stuck?
I would say one of the easiest ones is communications at c3gov.com.
Okay,
goes to our team.
Okay.
There's also IT has one. Like for the accessibility side of things and anything, you know, that's more on the tech side. IT leadership at c3gov.com is their email that's quickly available for folks. and then via Access C3 as well as are some of the quick, easy ways to.
Okay, but the
find that.
easiest one would be just communications@c3gov.com.
That's right.
All right. Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah.
Travis, thanks. Thank you again. I was going to ask, like for xeriscaping, when someone hits the link, is there a tutorial or video explaining xeriscaping and what the allowables are for the front yard, and would there be something for like the amount of trees they're supposed to have?
Yes, great question. So actually, yeah, from the city council request that you all approved here just about a month ago, I think, we've actually been working to develop that. So there actually is a page that is up right now. And in chatting with our planning staff, they wanted to make sure that the like a landing page, if you will, so to speak, was about xeriscaping, but also it was a little broader to just talk about residential landscaping in general to be able to address some of these various different areas. And I don't know that we have a vanity URL for it as well, but under the residents tab in the menu there, if you go to home and property, there's a new page that exists there on that main one called residential landscaping is the name of the page right now. And that's our first step, so to speak, I should say, towards implementing what you all requested with regards to the xeriscaping communications plan. We also did have that project at Speak Up Commerce City last week at Eagle Point. So we've had a flyer and a brochure in development as well to help with that project. And then this residential landscaping page, working with planning, and a lot of opportunities there again to say, okay, what are the questions that people are having, or what is a hot topic at any given moment, and to allow that flexibility to be able to address it on that page. So on the residential landscaping page, you'll actually see a number of different headings about tree lawns and maintaining your yard. Maintenance and soil improvements was another topic. And then xeriscaping itself, what are the principles of xeriscaping, water conservation. Those are some different topics that page is addressing for us right now.
Okay, thank you. And then the last one is, even though it's not the city, but we still have a role to play with Metro District. So yeah, we have a lot. So if someone could go there and just get basic information, is that available as far as outside link?
It is, yes. So, and I believe, let me just make sure that I tell you the right thing, but I'm pretty sure that the c3gov.com/metro districts should still exist. It does. So c3gov.com/metro districts will get you right to the Metro Districts page that we had built out. And again, as that conversation has evolved and changed over time as well. And then also we do still have a special districts map that our GIS team had built out. Some of you will remember from a few years ago, where you can actually search your address and it'll tell you exactly who all of your taxing entities are and how many mills it is. It's a pretty handy tool. So that does still exist on the new site as well.
All right, well, thank you. Great job.
Thank you.
Okay, second quarter 2025 financial report. I invite Teresa Wilson, Financial Director, forward for a presentation.
I'm actually going to start with the actual report, and then we'll jump over to the PowerPoint. So there are two attachments in your packet for this item: the actual financial report, which is a PDF, and then there's also a PowerPoint presentation, which we will tackle second. So for the second quarter, revenues in the general fund are on track to meet the projected budgeted amounts. License and permit revenue is trending higher than budgeted due to one large permit for a construction project that was paid for in the first quarter. Charges for service revenue is also trending ahead of budget due to higher than expected plan check and zoning board fees in the community development, as well as higher than expected programmatic revenues in Parks, Rec, and Golf. Investment earnings are also budgeted in a conservative fashion and are trending higher than anticipated. If you look at the table on page 1, this is my favorite part of the whole report. I think it really provides a great snapshot of the financial activity through the end of the quarter, second quarter in this case, for the general fund. So just as a refresher, since this is only the second time we've produced this new quarterly report format, the first column shows the area, the revenue or expenditure area. The second column shows what the 25 amended budget is as of 6/30 of 25, so through the end of the second quarter. Then we show the actuals, so what actually happened, what actually was expended, what actually came in by way of revenue as of 6/30 of 25. And then we compare those actuals to the budget. And that's really informative information, and we'll go through some of those percentages. And then the final column compares the year-to-date activity for 24 through the end of the second quarter, so you can see where we were this time last year if you wanted to do a year-over-year comparison. So the first segment of data within this table is the beginning fund balance. So that 107.9 million for the general fund is the audited year-end amount for 24 that we bring forward as the starting fund balance amount for 25. And then we add in the revenues, and then we subtract the expenditures, and that gets you to the income loss amount. And then an improvement we made this quarter was including the fund balance data at the bottom to get to the ending general fund unassigned. And I'll cover that in a little more detail here. But just looking at the revenues, the intergovernmental revenue, the amended budget, increased substantially during the second quarter as a result of the ARPA funding carryover. So if you recall, you passed an ordinance during the second quarter to carry over the unspent portion of ARPA funding from the end of last year into this year. So that increased substantially. So I wanted to point that out. And then the miscellaneous revenue also increased as a result of the donations carryover. So we have donated funds that come into the city for police and Parks and Rec, and we do a carryover amendment every year for those donations, and that bumped that revenue up for the second quarter as well. So I wanted to point those two things out. If you look at the actuals as a percent of budget for the revenues, for taxes, you'll see 47%. And keep in mind that for sales and use taxes, there's a 1-month lag for collection. So there's only 5 months worth of data for sales and use tax within this report. For example, sales and use taxes that are being remitted right now for this month's deadline are really for last month. So there's always a 1-month lag there. And you can see licenses and permits are 59% of budget. Compared to last year, we're down about 114,000 in that category. Looking at charges for services, 70%. That's due to that one large building permit revenue. Keep that in mind all year long. But year over year, that's trending $314,000 up. So that's a good spot to be. And then bottom line, our revenues are 48% of budget. So that's a really great place to be halfway through the year. Then looking at expenditures, if you focus on the percentages, multiple departments are right at 45, 49, 50% of budget, which is really great halfway through the year. You will see some that are lower than that, finance being one of them, community development being another. Those areas are trending down because of that ARPA carryover. Those departments have a lot of the ARPA funds included in them, and we have until the end of next year to spend those funds. We'll do another carryover amendment next year for the remaining balance, but those departments are trending lower than budget, mainly because of ARPA. And then debt service is also trending lower, but that's just based on the timing of our payments and where we ended the second quarter. So that's nothing to be alarmed about. That will all catch up by year end. So when it comes to revenues and expenditures in the general fund, are there any questions about that information?
Got some questions? I have a question on intergovernment.
Yes.
Intergovernmental, it shows 0%.
Yes, and I think what happened there is when we were doing all of our ARPA entries, we didn't actually book the revenue. We will catch that up in the third quarter,
Okay.
and that won't look so wonky. But that
All
is a
right.
good question. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, you can continue. Thank you.
Thank you. So then if you look at the bottom of this table, we added information to show, the ending fund balance once you factor in to that 107.9 million starting place. When you add the revenues, subtract the expenditures, you get down to the 104.7 million. And that is the total ending fund balance for the general fund. And then once you back out our reserves and fund balance requirements, you get down to 53 million for the end of the second quarter. In our recent budget presentations, that number is around 45.1 million. And the reason it's higher as of the 6/30 date is because we have two large budget amendments that impacted the general fund that were approved in August. So if you recall, Ordinance 2685 was to move the 4.9 million in audit revenue from the general fund to the capital expenditures fund for the police substation. And then Ordinance 2686 was approved for 2.8 million for the Civic Center remodel. Those were both approved in August, so we're showing those as backed out in the budget materials that you guys have seen, but not here because this is as of 6/30, and those were passed in August. So I did want to explain that. We also have some notes at the bottom, which I won't read out loud, to help explain the different fund balance categories. So on the next page, we have some bullet points there that provide some useful information, but jumping down to the chart, this shows a 3-year historical look for all of our general fund revenues on an annual basis. And then for the second quarter, we added this last bar graph at the side that shows the activity through the end of the second quarter. So our intent was to tie in that quarterly data as the year unfolds for you to be able to easily compare that to the 3-year historical look back to see how we're trending. So it is a partial year through the end of the second quarter, but that will continue to tick up through the end of the year as the quarters go by. This was our attempt to tie in that quarterly data to the annual data for that historical comparison. And we'll continue to do that if it is landing well with you all as a comparison. So feel free, like I said, this is only the second quarter we've done this, so we welcome feedback to continue to make this data more useful for you all. Below that are two side-by-side pie charts. The one on the left shows 2024 data, and then the one on the,
Excuse me.
yes,
Councilmember Dukes has a question.
yes.
Just a quick question.
Absolutely.
To your point around showing the second quarter
Yes,
year to date, it would be helpful. This is helpful
Yes.
overall. It'd also be helpful if maybe the third quarter you begin to highlight which ones are not trending.
Oh, sure.
And somewhere in this graph, maybe it's just a bullet so we understand.
more
like if-
narrative.
Yeah, yeah.
Perfect.
To help give a better contextual understanding of not just the number itself, the 67 million, but like what's tracking to be behind or lagging.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
We can absolutely do that. Thank you for that suggestion. So on the bottom of this page are two side-by-side pie charts comparing 2024 year-end to 2025 year-to-date. Again, we're trying to tie in that quarterly data to kind of see how we were trending compared to our most complete year, which was last year. So you can see the pieces of the pie do change a little bit. The yellow kind of gold piece of the pie is that building use tax revenue, and that is larger due to that one large permit that was paid in the first quarter. So that's why that piece of the pie looks a lot bigger in the year-to-date 25 data. I do also want to point out that in this pie graph, and we'll correct this and send a revised version of this out, but on the 2025 chart, that 49.9 million should tie to the 55.3 in tax revenue on the chart on the first page. I do apologize for that error. We just missed including something in that chart, which we'll correct and resend that out. The graph components of this chart are manual. There's not a way to automate the creation of those, so we do apologize for that error, but we'll correct that. On the next page, we're diving into sales and use tax. There's some helpful bullet points in there with some narrative describing some trends and information. And then the total sales and use tax revenue graph, this is comparing the first half of the year, so the first and second quarters of the year across years. So for 22 through 25, you can very easily compare the data there for the same time period through January through June of those years. And we are still trending up a bit, which is nice to keep pace with our expenditures, which are also trending up. But that shows that first half of the year comparison across those 4 years, just for sales and use tax. And the dark purple on top is the 2K, and the dark blue on the bottom is the non-2K, so the 1% versus the 3.5%. The graph below that, and you guys reacted really well to this graph, so we'll continue to include it, but this shows sales and use tax data January through June only across those same 4 years by industry. So you can see automotive versus construction and manufacturing and all the labels there at the bottom. The retail is up because that is including all the new online revenue we're getting as a result of the Wayfair decision. So that's been a continued positive trend for us. And the other category includes small things like medical offices, agricultural, arts and entertainment, and education services are what's included in that other category. Are there any questions about that data before I go to the next page?
Any questions from council? You know, it's interesting looking at the marijuana, how that's going down.
Yeah, we saw a spike during COVID. I'll have you make whatever conclusions of that you want. People were home more, maybe had more time. But we definitely noticed a spike in that category during COVID and a decline after.
Okay. All right, thank you.
So
Oh, Mayor Pro Tem Noble?
Teresa, what kind of businesses are part of retail in Commerce City?
mainly shops. Ken, do you want to elaborate on that? I really want to thank our tax manager, Ken, for being here tonight. Today's his birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
We know him.
You can go.
Happy birthday.
Hello?
Hello.
So under retail, let me just take a quick look.
That would definitely include like King Soopers.
Yeah,
and
obviously it would
Walmart.
include accommodations, that's the wrong one. It would include online retail. It would include box stores. Mostly it's online retailers is where we're seeing the biggest growth. We've seen our number of licensed businesses double in the last 4 years, and it's mostly, online retailing because of Wayfair.
Okay. Thank you. We could probably tell that also by the many times that the box recycling bins have to be replaced too, how frequently that happens. I bet there's been an uptick in that as well.
Oh, yeah, and also Amazon and companies
Yeah.
of that nature.
Oh, sure.
massive
Our
amount
boxes
of
have to go somewhere, though.
Yep.
Mine do. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Oh, and restaurants, do those include like Uber Eats and all that? Or how's that categorized? Is that,
I'd have to look specifically. Not sure I'm supposed to comment on specific companies, but I do know that the restaurants, when they're selling their food, they actually deduct the sales to Uber Eats and other delivery services, and we do treat them as selling the food. The question of whether or not they're under retail or restaurants, I believe they're under restaurants, but I would have to double check.
okay, thank you.
Great. So again, at the top of the next page, we do have some bullet points there for you to help shed some insight on the graphs. The two graphs right below, the side by side, we added the one on the right to kind of compare 25 to 24 as the year unfolds. Again, that's our way of trying to tie in the quarterly activity of 25 and compare back to 24 as the year unfolds. So you can compare the pieces of the pie there to see how trends are changing. I would like to point out that the construction and heavy equipment segment of the pie in orange there is quite larger in 24 compared to 25. So that area is definitely increasing. And then the bar graph below, I mentioned last quarter, but as a reminder, we used to just put all use tax together. And within our financial system, we have created new account codes to begin to track building use tax, vehicle use tax, and general use tax, which is anything except vehicle and building, separately, so that we could better analyze those different key segments of what use tax is. So for 25 for Q2, you can see that top piece of the pie is larger than the year before, and that again is due to that one large building permit that came in for a large project during the first quarter. So that is a little bit of an anomaly that you'll probably get sick of hearing me point out all year, but it's important to remember that. And then the line graph below is just showing what we're noticing to be that downward trend of use tax over the years. So this shows 22, 3, and 4. Yes.
Councilmember Dukes?
So thanks for the reminder on the big project early on. So without that big project, we'll be at 2022 levels? Is that what?
Yeah,
we're gonna-
that one large permit was about 2.5 million. So if you take that out of the 7.6, that'd get us closer to 5.5 compared to 5.1 for 24. So we'd still be trending ahead, but just not as significantly.
But we'll be lower than what we were trending in 2022, second quarter, if we did that right. So we'll be on par with last year, but when you look at it from the 4-year perspective, we'll be
Yeah.
less than we were 4 years
And
ago.
if you look at the building use tax totals in that top line right below the graph, the
Yeah.
7.7, that was a big year for building use tax in 22,
Okay.
or at least for the first 2 quarters, compared to 3.7 and then 5.1 and 7.6. And there could be some seasonality too. This
Okay.
chart is just comparing the first 2 quarters of the year. So it'll be interesting to see how that looks in the 3rd and 4th quarter of this year to kind of see what the trend is on an annual basis.
So what is we don't have it, we have the numbers probably in 2021, but what, in your opinion, what's the watermark for us? Is it 5 million or is it the 7 million?
It depends how much you want to spend. use tax is definitely more volatile, in
Okay.
my opinion, than sales tax. Sales tax is more based on total population, how many people live here, because they're all out there spending in various ways, whether it's online or going to the store. Use tax is going to be, at least the building use tax, and that's why we began splitting these categories out to better track the different segments of use tax. But building use tax specifically is going to be tied to development activity and permits issued and throughout the year.
Do you, I assume you go to conferences and talk to other folks in your similar role. Do you guys compare where you're at in use tax, or like when you look at budgets and
Yeah,
stuff?
Ken attends meetings regularly with sales tax professionals across local governments. So he does get involved in those conversations. I don't know if he has any specific insight to share.
And maybe not, you don't have to tonight. It's a on-the-spot question, which
Yeah.
you may not have the answer to, but I am curious in future, like when you look at our surrounding area, I'm curious, what is our watermark? Where are we at compared to like a Brighton, North Glen, Thornton, even Aurora, just in the future as we look at these taxes?
Absolutely. We can come back with some of that next quarter.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions about this page before I move on?
I do see that restaurant and food services, so Uber Eats and all that might be part of, in that category as restaurants and food service.
Great. So the top of the next page, we're leaving the world of revenues and getting into expenditures. So we include the expenditure categories there based on how our financial system is set up. So we track salaries and employee benefits, materials and supplies, which are tangible goods needed for service delivery. Purchase services and charges are contract services and cost allocations. So as a reminder, we have 4 internal service funds for fleet, facilities, IT, and benefits. And those funds charge cost allocations to the user departments, primarily in the general fund, but also the other internal service funds. And those costs are included in that purchase services and charges category. We have capital outlay, which is largely parks, rec, and golf equipment, and then we have debt service for the COP payments that are funded out of the general fund. This graph at the bottom, last quarter we showed you the 22, 3, and 4 annual comparison, and we added the same component here to try and tie in the quarterly activity as 25 unfolds. But this 25 column just shows the first 2 quarters of the year. It shouldn't be a surprise that as a service organization, a good majority of our costs are related to salaries and benefits because you need all of the FTE to provide the services. On the next page, we have a side-by-side comparison. We added the chart.
Teresa?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Mayor Pro Tem has a question.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Teresa. And Mayor. So I'm looking at the personnel costs that have increased 11.64%. At the same time, we've had quite a bit of turnover, so in essence, those folks wouldn't be paid at this point.
Right.
Additional positions, 21 in 2024 and 18 in 2025 to date. Are those brand-new positions or replacing people who left?
Absolutely. Those are brand-new positions, and they would have been authorized in the budget when it was adopted for each of those years. But we call that out in the annual budget information when you guys are making those decisions and considering them. So
Yes, we don't focus during the budget
Sure,
sessions
sure.
on that sort of detail, although that's something
Yeah.
that I believe we should focus on. Which is
Absolutely.
why I keep raising this as an issue.
So
And
when-
then it says merit increases tied to annual evaluations. What was the average merit increase percentage?
I want to say it's around 3%, but I would need confirmation of that. Does that sound about right? We can confirm that. We do follow a 5-point rating scale, and the annual increase an employee gets is based on that performance rating. But we can follow up on that.
You done, Mayor Pro Tem?
Since this is a finance report instead of a personnel discussion, I'll
Yes.
hold my other questions for the necessity of the 39 people.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this side-by-side graph comparison on the top of this page, again, is comparing 24 year-end activity to 25 year-to-date so that we can kind of watch the segments of the pie chart over the quarters evolving this year to see, are we trending as 24 might expect? So this was our attempt to tie in the quarterly activity for this year. The graph on the right, and I do apologize again, we are missing the debt service payment of $458,548 for the COP payments. So we will correct that and reissue this report. But that 54.7 million amount on the right should tie to the 55.1 total expenditure amount through second quarter on the table on the first page. So I apologize for that. We will avoid that error in the issue in the future, but I did want to call that out and explain that. The bar chart below is comparing only the first half of the year through the second quarter across those same 4 years, 22 through 25, so that we can really look at that trend for the same period of time through the end of the second quarter. Our expenditures have been steadily increasing over time, so seeing that upward trend is not necessarily surprising. And this will be really meaningful when we get to the point where we're able to share the long-term financial planning data with you. We're in the middle of a long-term financial plan process, which is going to produce 10 years worth of long-term revenue and expenditure projections, and we can really compare that to our historical data too and help make sure that makes sense and get a really good handle on what our financial future looks like so we can make sure we're making good decisions to continue to live within our means. On the next page, we're shifting gears into the capital project fund. So our major capital expenditures fund is where we house the vast majority of our CIP projects. There's very little of the CIP that is outside of this fund. We do make transfers from non-major capital funds like Conservation Trust and the drainage funds into this fund to help fund those projects, but everything really lands here when it comes to capital projects. So on the revenue side, intergovernmental revenue includes federal and state grants as well as county shared revenue in the form of open space and transportation tax revenue that help fund quite a bit of our transportation projects and open space projects. On the capital expenditure side, expenditure and revenue trends don't always flow equal from month to month. So when you look at the actuals of a percent of budget column here, I wouldn't necessarily expect to see the same close to 50% that we would on the operating side because capital is just a different animal. But it does provide useful data, and we include the same 24 data to compare the first half of 24 to the first half of 25. So you can see on the revenue side, through June 30th of 25, we have 4.4 million in revenue compared to 5 million last year in the same time period. So some of those differences can be seen in the data, but that's not too alarming. Some of those capital streams ebb and flow, and as we learn more about the state budget and how that may impact some of these revenues, we will continue to keep you informed. But That's where we're at through June 30th of '25. Expenditures in '25 have really been increasing. So you all are very well aware that we have quite a bit of money appropriated for capital projects that are in the works, and city staff has been very busy trying to deliver on as much as possible within the time that has unfolded so far this year. So those expenditures have been increasing in '25. We also included the same fund balance information at the bottom so that you can compare that. And then on the final page, we do have a couple of charts that show capital expenditure projects by department. There's so many capital projects, we can't show it on a project level and have it be a legible graph. But we're certainly open to suggestions on how you might want to see meaningful capital project data. If there's something we could be doing better in this area, we are definitely all ears and willing to try and continue making this as meaningful as possible for you. But we have it set up right now to compare capital projects by department. And then the graph below is showing the same data through the second quarter across those same 4 years again. And this is the point that I was making, that we have really been out there working hard on capital projects in '25, and the uptick in expenditures shows that. And then the last component of the report, we have some project updates there specific to 96th Avenue widening, 88th Avenue widening, some plans and corridor studies that are in the works. So that information is there at the bottom. So are
Right.
there any questions about the actual report? We also have a little PowerPoint presentation that focuses more on state and federal economic trends, and I'm happy to go through that too, but I wanted to make sure to really focus heavily on the report itself.
Absolutely. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Noble?
Thank you. I'm going back to the second to the last page, and the actuals on the general fund through June 30th. And it shows a negative balance of 8.7 million.
I'm sorry, what page are you on?
The second to the last page?
The second to the
Oh,
last?
oh, you're right here. You're here. You're
Okay.
here. Yeah, okay, right there. Income loss.
Yes, so
Could you explain that?
this is the capital expenditures fund. So really that income loss is comparing that we brought in 4.4 million in revenue thus far and spent 13.1. That's that kind of unstandard. When it comes to capital projects, you can't just take the revenues and expenditures and divide by 12 and expect to see that's what unfold on a monthly basis as the year unfolds. Capital projects have a lot of seasonality due to construction season and as projects ramp up. But these projects are fully covered by transfers into this fund from the other funds like Conservation Trust, our drainage funds, and other funds that feed capital projects, as well as using fund balance that exists within the fund. So we can take a closer look at this and see if it really makes sense to continue including that income loss line. But I do assure you there's no real loss here because all the capital project spending is covered by revenue,
Thank you.
just not within the reporting period through the second quarter.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Dukes?
Just want to just give feedback on the report itself. You know, I've seen a lot of reports and budgets, and this is really great. This is great. You've done a good job at trying to be as concise as possible while balancing enough detail with the notes at the very bottom of the page, and then giving these updates on the CIP projects. As far as the report, I'll continue to look at it. I don't have any additional feedback. I thought
Great.
it's a great report, and I look forward to more of these. I do have one question, if it makes sense, and I trust your opinion on this. Is you mentioned we do hold a lot of funds for our CIP projects that are currently in the works. Do we have a number or would it make sense to have a number of what we hold that's not in the works? So we think about some of our CIP 3 years out. I'm curious what what that amount is, because for me, we may need to start prioritizing, like, if we want to get some of these other projects done,
Absolutely.
maybe we shouldn't hold so much money in 3 to 4 years out. But
Sure. And we've tried to connect the dots between the current year and kind of that CIP planning and the materials we present as part of the 5-year CIP. So we've categorized, we created the Horizon projects list to really begin capturing and documenting projects that are unfunded. So I'm not saying we can't try to improve upon that, but the attempt of those materials is to try and show that longer term picture and how we can connect the dots to where we are today.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you say, using the Horizon project as the way to look at the CIP money that we're holding for a project
Absolutely.
not started, instead of putting it in this
And the
financial year.
5-year plan, which the 5-year plan that we've been updating this year as part of the 26 budget process covers 26 through 30. So we've officially entered the budget planning world, including a year that starts with 3 for 2030. So that's really interesting. But that 5-year plan, along with the Horizon projects list, has been our attempt as staff to paint that picture.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much for all the work you do and your team. This is great.
Yes, thank you very much. From last year to this year, as was asked about earlier, to come back, and you guys have done a great job of breaking everything down leading up to our meeting next month, so much appreciated.
Absolutely.
On this Public Works, 144 million, and then we got Parks and Recs, 40 million. Is there an area where that's broken down to what those projects are within that money?
Not within this report, but we did recently launch the CIP dashboard, which was intended to really provide the detail on a project level. It's linked to GIS mapping and that sort of thing. So that has been our attempt to provide and report on these important projects at that more detailed project level.
Okay, all right.
Does that
Where-
help?
Where can they be found on the website? A link or?
I think Jason's trying to find it real quick.
If you don't have it right now, that's fine. If you could send it out to us, that'd be great.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks again for your time. Appreciate it. Hey, Councilmember Kim or Chacon, do you have any questions? Okay, all right.
And do you want me to hit on the PowerPoint at all, or do you just want to read those federal and state highlights?
Did you guys want the presentation?
I know you have other agenda items, but it is there in your packet for your reference.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Jenna Hun, Public Works Director, truck routes and tipping fee overview. Hello.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and City Council. Nice to see you all. So tonight, we're going to be going through an overview of the city's truck routes as well as tipping fees. So we'll start by going through the history of how our current truck routes were established in the city. We'll also discuss generally how truck routes are set by engineers. We'll talk about the impact of truck routes on our existing tipping fee, and then we'll dive into specifics regarding 96th Avenue and Colorado Boulevard. So our truck routes were adopted by an ordinance passed by City Council in 1987. The city engineer at the time put together his list of recommendations for the truck routes, and because those routes were established by ordinance, those routes can certainly be modified, but it would take another ordinance being passed by the City Council to do so. We have quite a long list of truck routes in the city, which was included in your packet, but our most heavily utilized routes, not in any specific order other than alphabetical here, are 56th Avenue, 96th Avenue, Colorado Boulevard, Tower Road, and Quebec. Staff chose to focus this presentation on Colorado Boulevard and 96 due to the ongoing or planned improvements for both of those corridors. So in general, when engineers look at truck routes, they are considering 5 key criteria. Public safety, which would include where routes can be established to avoid as much pedestrian traffic as possible. Road infrastructure, where we consider things like how thick the road base is, what type of vehicle the road can support over a long period of time without establishing maintenance concerns, other things like bridge heights, et cetera. Of course, they also look at traffic flow, right? How can we efficiently get trucks through the city without causing unnecessary impacts to residents or other commuters? Accessibility to key destinations, such as our industrial areas throughout the city, and then, of course, highway connections to get vehicles to and from the various highways that we have accessing our city. So real quickly, we'll take a look at tipping fees. There was a question raised by council earlier about how tipping fees correlate with truck routes. So in general, a tipping fee is the charge that's levied upon any given quantity of waste received at a waste processing facility. So that fee helps cover the costs associated with the operation at the processing facility, and truck routes do not directly impact the amount levied at these facilities, so in short, they are not correlated. That said, if anybody is curious, this is a summary of the tipping fees that we have collected since 2020, as well as projections for 2025 through 2030. So this next section of the presentation will focus on 96th Avenue specifically. On your screen here, you can see the current conditions on 96. These numbers focus specifically on heavy trucks. So you can see that the total daily trucks on 96th Avenue is approximately 1,170. And I will say that overall on 96th Avenue, including trucks, we have approximately 14,000 vehicles traveling per day. So 14,000, and then this number is the truck route. And then when we're thinking about the ongoing widening project, the level of service for that roadway at various intersections will increase to C or better at all of our intersections, with the one exception being the southbound movement at 96 Chambers and only during the AM peak hours. So that's the only area on that corridor where the widening project will not improve level of service. So what would happen if we were to look at removing the 96th Avenue truck route is that we would have to send that traffic from 96th Avenue and Highway 2 up to Highway 2 and 104th Avenue. So there are several implications for if we were to adjust the truck route accordingly. First of all of the eastbound trucks at 96 and Highway 2 would again have to go up to Highway 2 and 104th. The eastbound trucks would then have to make a left turn movement through what is currently a single left turn lane in lieu of the through movement in 2 through lanes. Trucks do complete left turn movements at a slower pace, of course, since they're larger vehicles, which would mean passenger vehicles would have a smaller amount of time to make it through the intersection. So those conditions combined, we'd be looking at significant impact to level of services at that intersection, which is already nearing its capacity in the morning due to the heavy southbound and westbound lanes. Specifically looking at the impact on 104th and Tower Road, the northbound left turn movement would be highly impacted, much like we saw on the prior slide, during the PM peak commuting hours. Our traffic model has indicated that the northbound left turn storage lanes would spill back into the northbound through lane, and essentially what that means is you'd have trucks that are taking that turn slower that wouldn't be able to make it through the turn in time, and therefore vehicles would be stopped at the red light waiting to turn, but they'd be stopped in the through lane, which is, of course, a concern because when you're traveling through a through lane, you don't expect vehicles to be stopped waiting to make a turn. And then When we consider the natural growth that the city is expecting over the next 20 years, especially in that particular area, we do anticipate that the additional truck traffic generated from rerouting the truck route into this corridor will lead to significant operational issues at multiple intersections that are already approaching their peak during busy hours. So again, if we redistribute the truck volumes from 96 to 104th, that westbound left movement would be impacted by the additional trucks. During the peak hours specifically, we would increase our volume and capacity from 0.96 to 1.17. The closer we move to 1, then the more congestion we see. So again, the result would be the same as we talked about the last slide, where vehicles would be spilling into and likely stalled at red lights in the through lane. So to help everyone visualize what we're looking at here, the green line represents where the current truck route is, and the red lines demonstrates where the most feasible alternative would be, with the red circles demonstrating those two intersections that we just looked at that would be the most heavily impacted. So trucks would move north on Highway 2, and then we'd have the most congestion at Highway 2 and 104th, as well as Tower Road and 104th. So because rerouting the trucks off 96 would move heavy vehicles to roads that are not built to hold that volume of traffic or built to hold the weight of those vehicles, staff does not recommend rerouting trucks from 96th Avenue. And highlighting again that our intersections at 104th and Tower and 104th and Highway 2 would be the most heavily impacted by that change. So shifting gears now to Colorado Boulevard, here are the current conditions on Colorado. So total daily trucks on Colorado is approximately 1,300. Now, this conversation about Colorado is slightly more theoretical because we don't have the same level of data for Colorado that we do for 96. That said, if we were to reroute vehicles, the most logical alternative route would be 74th Avenue rather than Dahlia Street or US 85. I also do want to point out that there are existing businesses on Colorado that do utilize heavy trucks, so even if we were to change the truck route off of Colorado, there still would be a significant amount of trucks needing to travel down that road to access the businesses such as Brennan Gravel. So we're assuming that only 50% of the trucks currently traveling down Colorado Boulevard would be able to be rerouted. And again, we don't currently have a synchro model to look at exactly how rerouting onto 74th would play out. But it is worth considering that we are not the only jurisdiction that would be impacted by routing trucks to 74th Avenue. We would need to work with Adams County as well as CDOT in order to make that shift possible. So again, here's a little visual aid to help us think about where we'd be looking at. The green line currently is Colorado Boulevard, of course, and then the red line would be the assumed alternative route along 74th. So in concept, we absolutely support reducing the number of cut-through trucks on Colorado. We know there are a lot of residents over there, and we certainly want to improve the quality of life. And how can we do that? Well, we did look at whether or not it would make sense to add physical barriers to prevent trucks from exiting Colorado Boulevard, but we don't recommend that at this time. However, what I can say is Council will be seeing a contract on October 6th for the 68th Avenue Multimodal Improvement Project. Once that passes, that consultant team will get to work on exploring ways to enhance safety for all users along that corridor, considering the proximity to Colorado Boulevard, AKA the truck route. So I mentioned previously that we don't have the same level of data available for Colorado that we do for 96. So Public Works is going to pursue contracting with a third-party engineering firm to complete the modeling data needed to explore shifting trucks to 74th Avenue. And again, we'll coordinate with Adams County as well as CDOT as a part of the process. And just to be transparent with budget, the estimate for collecting that data specifically for 74th Avenue will be about $25,000. So I know that was a lot of information. As usual, happy to answer any detailed questions that council has.
Okay, council have questions. We'll start with the first one, 96 route. Mayor Pro Tem Noble.
Thanks very much. I actually have a lot of questions. I ask residents who live in the area if they wanted to weigh in, and they did weigh in. I sent those questions in early this morning. I think, though, that I would like to share some of them right now because to make certain that they're addressed. One is, since East 96th Avenue was originally designated as a truck route in 1987, that was long before any homes were built in the area. It's grown, of course, mightily since then. So the issue is, what can we do about the fact that there are homes all along 96th Avenue when there weren't in 1987?
Well, I think that question is more of a forward-thinking approach rather than what can we do to correct, because the homes are there. We can't really do anything at this point, but perhaps we can consider going forward proximity to homes and roadways.
Okay. Were there any, why was 104th the only alternative route considered?
So that would be the next best route when you consider, so one of the goals of truck routes is to get the vehicles through any city as quickly as possible to minimize, wear and tear on the roadways and the amount of time that vehicles are spending interacting with trucks. And so 104th is the next best possible direct route for trucks to go through the city. So we could certainly look at other options, but the scenario that we saw on the screen here would only worsen as we were to increase the amount of time and distance that trucks are driving on the roads.
Right, and it doesn't solve the problem of homes on the road as well. It's still the same problem.
It does not. We'd essentially be taking the condition that we're looking at 96 and creating that somewhere else in the city.
Yeah, except for the high school, which is a considerable issue. I did talk to the 27J, I don't know what his job title was, but when he came in June to the community meeting that was held at Bison Ridge, and he said that speed limits will be reduced by the high school. So we may be hearing from truckers who are saying, gee, why is it suddenly going down to 20 or 25 miles an hour by the high school when the school is in session, or perhaps even all day? We need traffic lights along there. I believe that there's going to be a traffic light at Landmark and 96th in order to get into the parking lot. But Walden probably needs a traffic light. People trying to get out of Second Creek Parkway are being backed up at the same time. So it's actually, 96 is quite a mess at the moment, even without the road having been widened yet. Could there be any restrictions on truck hours when they couldn't drive?
So, certainly restrictions on truck hours when they can be on the roadway is something we do see throughout the state of Colorado. However, we typically see it in downtown areas. So think about downtown Denver and then major highways that pass through cities. So not necessarily on the same type of roadway that we're talking about here. And to your earlier point, Mayor Pro Tem, yes, we are going to be installing school flashing signs. Since the current posted speed on 96 is 40, we'll be looking at reducing the school zone speed to either 30 or 25, depending on where we come to agreement with PD regarding what level is enforceable for them. And we would have those signs on throughout the duration of the school day.
Okay, I think enforcement is an issue, and they are having truckers use Telluride and 88th for a detour. They aren't stopping doing that, even though they've been told not to do it. There are now signs up there because it's not being enforced. So it's easier for them if they take the risk because they know there's nothing happening to them. That's kind of a problem right now as well. What about berms, concrete walls, noise walls, tree barriers, things like that? Do we have a picture yet or a diagram or a plan of what 96th Avenue is going to look like?
The road build out, or are we talking about
The road
sound
build
walls?
out. Mhm.
So
What-
we
what
do
the
have
design-
the full design for what the 96th Avenue widening project will do to the roadway. We have a active project website where residents can go and look at all of those plans. Regarding, sound walls, berms, or tree barriers, I would say that sound walls are more commonly used in situations like this and earth berms for highway noise, although certainly both are options. But in this particular instance, if we were to go a noise mitigation route, the sound walls would be more applicable, but we'd still be looking at the CDOT requirements for installing those.
I know that on the curve, when you come over the bridge going east, there is a curve as you head back up the hill towards where the high school will be. And people have been known to go right off that curve. So with 4 lanes and semi-trucks and high schoolers, what about a concrete fence along that route?
So concrete fences are essentially sound walls. And sound walls and concrete in general are not built to withstand the impact of a vehicle veering off the roadway. So that would not be a safe alternative. If a vehicle were to hit the wall, it could possibly topple down. So alternatively, we look at guardrails. We follow AASHTO standards for where we should install guardrails, and guardrails are a part of the 96th Avenue widening project where AASHTO will allow us to put them in.
Okay, I'm going to go through my list here of everyone who commented. So I'll stop for now so I don't dominate the conversation. I apologize for that. But I do have other comments from folks that I need to double check.
Sure. Okay, Councilmember Chacon.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. I also agree with Mayor Pro Tem Noble. I think that the trucking routes are incredibly outdated if we're still going from 1987 and we haven't taken into account residents at this point, especially in the northern part of the city now because we're just not used to it apparently from the trucking routes. So I think it's creating a lot of compounded problems by not updating and also looking at it in the past of how other spaces do it as well. Having smaller routes in residential or having smaller trucks in residential spaces. So you have your normal semis, but when you start getting closer into the city, you don't use the same huge semis all the time. You use other forms of trucking. Is there a possibility to be able to have different fleets or smaller fleets that can go within residential spaces? Because I see this as kind of continuing a problem that I don't think we need to, especially if we're always constantly for more development.
I would say that would be up to the various trucking businesses and not the city, unless City Manager Rogers has another answer.
No, thank you, Jenna. Ma'am, thank you for that question. I think when thinking about truck routes and obviously commercial motor vehicles that are utilizing those truck routes as prescribed by the city, right, we have some very clear policies that we've set out at the beginning of the presentation that kind of guide the inclusion, addition, or at limited times removal of those truck routes. I think that then plays into when you think about the typology of uses that is along that route that may leverage or benefit from it, that being residential, that being industrial, that being commercial. They all have a different type of demand, which will then give guidance to the type of truck that will be used. And obviously, when you see some of those commercial motor vehicles that are larger in size coming down a residential street, you have to think about what that may be in response to based on that demand. Is it a delivery? Is it in coordination with growth and development that's still occurring within that neighborhood? Is that also, travailing down a roadway that's also identified as one of our truck routes? because of the roadway classification and the weight that can be borne on that. So there's a lot of different factors that come into play in which we give guidance, but we don't give dictation to the trucking companies as to the type of vehicle that can be used along those pathways if they're comporting and complying with our policies and our guidelines.
Thank you. Is there a way that we can kind of rebalance the typology? I guess is what I'm getting at if that's the case, because it feels imbalanced to have such large semis now in residential spaces. So can we meet with trucking companies? Does that mean redrafting an ordinance so that it can kind of reestablish a balance? I understand that there has to be a level of understanding deliveries that have to go through, but it's so imbalanced to still cater to some form of industry instead of also recognizing that people live here.
I don't believe, I believe we can always have a conversation whether or not, when we think about, once again, we think about roads that have weight limitations due to the type of construction of those roadways. Obviously, there are times in which that, that will be, there will be an exception to that for, like I said, for deliveries. But I think it really does come down to the business decision that's being made by the trucking company in order to provide the provision of service or goods to those that they are providing that to. So while we may be able to share with them what our maximum roadway limitations are and how they can then anticipate the type of vehicle to use that's in compliance for 90% of the time outside of those exceptions in which that they're utilizing. But I think a pure dictation that you're going to use X and X type of commercial motor vehicle would be a little bit of an overstep beyond what is our purview and our role in government. So we can give those guardrails, no pun intended, to them about how we look at the road classification, the weight, and the established trucking routes.
Thank you. My goal is to also help with just showing them our data too, and maybe even helping with their efficiency. The reason I say that is because just 104th alone, I see so many trucks travel so quickly down that road, travel completely through red lights. There are no repercussions. There's no enforceability of traffic violations. Just this morning, a whole entire semi had to somehow back up right back into the stoplight that they're about to run. So how do we deal and kind of show them, hey, at the same time, I understand that you're meeting a certain level of efficiency. This is also inefficient to the cities that you're going through that damages, whether it's traffic violations, whether it's accidents, whether it's a number of other issues. Another one was on Friday coming down US 85, which should have took me 15 minutes, took me an hour and a half, just because there was a broken down semi on the right side of the road. And for it to take that long just to move a semi, I can only imagine when this continues to get larger and larger. So I would just like to share with them, trucking companies, that it's like, look, this can either help your efficiency, but also get to know your community's data and see your impacts. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Teeter.
Yeah, want to answer some of those questions that was just brought up. First of all, the trucks that are going too fast and stuff, if you could just get a truck number and a company number and call in to that company, I'll guarantee you that I dispatched for years when I worked for Safeway, and actions are taken against people. And if you could get a dash camera picture and send it in. I mean, things happen, and these companies are responsible, and they do take care of bad drivers. But they have to know about it. They need the time of day and some factual information. But looking at 96th Avenue, a lot of people go that way because the speed limit on Highway 2, or a lot of truckers go that way because of the speed limit on Highway 2. I mean, you're wasting time going down Highway 2 when you can just go down Tower and go around there. Same thing with our lights being out of sequence on Quebec Street. It's a nice wide highway. more trucks would use it. But every light you come to, it don't matter if you're going the speed limit. If you're going the speed limit, every light you come to, you have to stop. And then you have to restart. And so truckers avoid it. I-270, it's always backed up. Truckers avoid it. They come down 56, they go alternate routes. There's a lot of things we can do just by fixing our system a little bit better to help out with transportation. But as far as, rerouting trucks off from 96, that's these people that moved up in that area knew that highway was there. They knew it was a truck route. Don't move next to a truck route and then say, well, you got to go because we got a school we're going to put up here. The school on Adams City High School has no problem with trucks going 45 mile an hour. It's just about as close as the one on 96th. So, I don't know. You're not going to change the trucking hours. Trucking business is a 24/7 hour business, and that's not going to change throughout the state. As far as making all the trucks smaller, that just means that you got to send 2 trucks out to deliver the same load that you could with one, with the larger trucks. So you're kind of, to have 2 extra or 2 trucks instead of 1, you're kind of defeating your purpose there. So. But,
And if I may, sir, we do have our transportation and mobility manager, Michael Rank, who spends the vast majority of his time looking at the timing of our signals and watching the traffic cameras and tweaking them by half a second or a second to help vehicles move as efficiently as possible. So that is an ongoing and constant job of his.
yeah, well, I appreciate you doing that. It's I've been waiting for that for a long time. The same with the flashing yellow lights on Quebec Street. Hopefully we'll get that one of these days. But that'll make things go smoother for everybody. But for the left-hand turn for the flashing yellow lights. But anyway, that's I guess that's all I got for now.
City Manager Rogers, do you have something you want to say?
Yes, Mayor. I think just generally speaking, there's a lot of education that we currently do with the Colorado Motor Vehicle Association with respect to our community. Obviously, the feedback that we hear along some of our highly used truck routes, and they do push information out to their users. Obviously, we have the establishment of our commercial motor vehicle unit within PD that is routinely active along these truck routes and along the corridors of where we have various interactions or interplays with residential and or other types of businesses that are experiencing issues with cut through on routes that are not identified. I would say just generally speaking, we have a community that is built and based off of transportation, distribution, and logistics. So the reality of where we have that type of employment clustered along those various routes that are aligned upon east-west to get to the major highways, those highways being 85, those highways being 76, E470. And when you think about some of the just natural impediments that we have, one of the largest ones, and I don't mean an impediment in a negative sense, but in the construct of what we're talking about tonight, you have the arsenal that is, taking up approximately 40 blocks between 56 and 88th and 96th Avenue to be able to provide that east-west traffic that other municipalities don't necessarily have the same complexity to have to navigate. So when you start to think about 96 in the greater scheme of 104th, 112th, 120th, you have more interplay with access points and connection places or access points with residential than what you may have in 96. And that was always some form of contemplation when you think about it in the new lands or the previous comprehensive plan before the one that was adopted in 2010, as well as the master transportation plan that came before it. So a lot of this was built around just the reality of who we are as a city as we were expanding and growing into the Northern Range. also it being planned and thinking about that interplay when we start to see that growth and that build out, and obviously the developments that we're planning and developing in consideration of 96th Avenue when they came through the city for their approval process.
Yeah, thank you. Councilmember Dukes.
Jenna, thank you for the presentation and the details and the specifics. From what I'm seeing here from a policy perspective, if we were to make a policy to modify the truck route, it's going to create pain points in other part of the city. Does that sound?
That is correct, yes.
And so I do appreciate the thoughtfulness and the research behind it. I like the idea of the 25,000 going towards studying the data on Colorado Boulevard. I think that should happen in general. I think that's a great way to kick off and kind of figure out what's happening as that area grows and expands. And as far as the 96th Avenue, I do feel, I wonder how many residents knew it was a truck route, but that's not really within our control. But maybe in the future we talk with the developers or the home builders that have some type of disclosure, good neighbor agreement to say, hey, here's what you know about. The other piece is I can't justify additional cost, because if we do move this truck route, that's going to be significant cost to the city to try to reinforce 104th or any other place that these trucks have to drive down. So in my mind, I won't be able to justify that. And in traffic flow and accessibility, I think those are some challenges that I think you said it so eloquently, like we're kind of moving it from one area to another area. So we're going to create another problem in the other parts of the Northern Range. So just again, thanks for the details. And I was going to mention Adams City High School, but Councilmember Teeter mentioned that as well. That is a truck route. And then also explaining the traffic signals. I think that's something we could continuously improve on. And it sounds like that's the work that you're doing as well and your team's doing to keep an eye on that, because there are some lights that are problematic. I think about 64th over there by Eagle Point. Like that's a tricky route. It's kind of shorter than what I'd expected, but.
Yeah, and I would say if anyone has specific concerns about intersections, you can send that our way and we will take a look.
Okay.
You know, as I said, our team's constantly watching those cameras and seeing what we need to do. But if we hear about someone who's never able to get through a movement, for example, then we can focus on a particular intersection to see if timing shifts are warranted.
Okay. And my last point is around education. To think about, I don't have a recommendation for y'all. You probably do this already, but it'll be great to Councilmember Teeter's point around how do you report a truck who is speeding, and make sure that's more community awareness and in some form or fashion. But if you do that already, that's great. But I did like that idea because a lot of residents don't know that they should call and say, here's the truck number and stuff. So thank you.
Councilmember Douglas.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I know this is not an easy subject to tackle here at all. So 96, we're really talking about the issue from Tower to Highway 2. Mm-hmm. And actually, as we grow from the east, that's going to continue because that will also be filled with residential area. I can't see them coming down 104th and 120th. It's too bad that they have to use our city as a truck route at all. I'm wondering, is there a truck route that goes through Brighton that impacts the residents? Do you know?
Honestly, I am not sure. I did not look at Brighton's truck routes.
Yeah, it'd be kind of nice to know who's coming through there and where they're going and where they're coming from, because our citizens are the ones who are having to pay the price. It would be nice, since they are basically guests in our community, and we are providing them a way to make their money. And basically, their costs for using the roads are externalized. I'm wondering if there's any way that we can somehow figure out something to minimize the impacts that it has on the city, and not depending on their taxpayer dollars to provide them with any kind of resolve for lessening the impacts that these trucks cost. And so I really do think that we need to form some kind of relationship with these trucking companies and to let them know that they are guests here and that they are impacting our citizens, and that there needs to be some kind of contribution to our city for being the right to do business here, as far as contributing to guardrails, sound walls, and especially sound walls, because I know those are pretty expensive, but there has to be, in my mind, some kind of trade-off here. I wish we could open up that back road that was, I think it was Buckley, that was going back by the edge of the arsenal, so that we could give them, those neighbors, some kind of relief. I just think that we really need to look at some options here, and that we need to work with the trucking companies to let them know that this hasn't been addressed since 1987. That's 40 years. That's a long time, and there's been a lot of change here. And to me, this is not going to be a one and done session to resolve these problems and provide some relief to our residents. And that's who we owe our obligation to make their lives as best as we possibly can.
City Manager Rod, did you have something to say?
No, sir.
Okay. Councilmember Ford.
Thanks, Mayor. No, it's not an easy subject to tackle. We have been, I grew up here my entire life. It's been a trucking industry business, and logistically, because of how Commerce City is laid out and placed with the rail activity and the highways, it tends to attract distribution type of opportunities. Hence the name Commerce City. That's how it got its name, because of the commerce. And if you look at Colorado and you look at what the roads that are the poorest in Colorado, I-76, I-270, Highway 85, they are all terrible roads. The state's not taking care of their end of it. I think we need to work with our state representatives and state senators in the area to try to get them to improve the state highways. State Highway 224 is another one. You can't hardly drive down it. If the state highways through our area and around our community were in better shape, then the trucks would rather use those nicer roads. I mean, why would you want to go, if I'm a truck driver, I don't want to go through a residential neighborhood. I would rather that we work on the fees for trucks on E470. That'll take a lot of trucks out of our neighborhoods, off of these big roads. But I really don't think it's because if you sat down and talked to the Colorado Motor Carriers Association, I would imagine, and I would lean on our attorney, that would probably get sued if we tried to force them to reduce the size of their trucks or stop them from being able to use our roads. I think there's a very big liability there for the city. But if we could get the state to do their part, Commerce City has been left out when it comes to Highway 85 my entire life. It's been a terrible road. I mean, the medians, the intersections, that was a truck route right next to the high school that I graduated from the old Adams City High School. Colorado Boulevard was on the other side. So every high school that we've ever had, or now that we're building, has been on a truck route. Quebec Street. So we take the brunt of the impact to our community because of the state's lack of doing their improvements and taking care of their responsibilities in and around our city. And I think we would see a huge reduction in maintenance, impact, trucks, regardless, if we got the state to do a better job. 60th Avenue and 270 is a travesty. We've been waiting forever for that to get fixed. Highway 85 is a mess. We finally took over Highway 2 because they weren't maintaining or improving that. So I think there's a bigger discussion to be had when it comes to trucks. And living in a neighborhood, I will tell you right now, I don't even notice the trucks when it comes to these Chinese type of cars with these loud exhausts and these motorcycles that come through your neighborhood at 2 o'clock in the morning. They're 10 times louder than a truck. And we can't do anything about that either. So I think we have a bigger problem, but I would recommend that we have a discussion with Colorado Motor Carriers Association to talk to them about how do we get them to work with us to do a better job within our community. What can we do from a policy standpoint, working with them? But I really think the bigger issue is the state of Colorado and getting them to improve the state highways around our community to attract the truck traffic to be where it should be instead of through our community. And I think we could see a natural reduction. And I also think that there's a claim where Commerce City can talk to the state about the fees on 270 for trucks by allowing trucks to utilize that in an easier capacity than forcing them to run down Tower and 96th. You can alleviate a lot of the truck problems, but I think it has to be through diplomacy with the state of Colorado. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Kim.
Thank you, Mayor. I think one of the statements that I not statements, but more so policy, I think we could always look at into changing is potentially the setbacks. I think when we look at, and correct me if I'm wrong, the city manager Rogers, but if we were to, depending on, I guess, a PUD or an area where they're looking at building out residential, and it is identified that the route along there is considered a trucking route, or wherever it's going to be moved to, those setbacks could be set within policy to state that it's got to be, beyond X amount of feet from the road. Am I mistaken in that?
I would say yes and no. I think it's very dependent upon the timing in which an entitlement application is coming before you. If a question around zoning for a piece of property, in this scenario adjacent to a truck route, that may be a major arterial, major collector, there is a iterative conversation that you can have with the developer about what's the appropriate setback as a buffer from noise, light, glare, and just general safety. When it comes to the timing of a plat, the determination on the setback has already been established, and what you really have there is an exercise of demonstrating how that developer is meeting that standard that has been approved and adopted as part of that PUD. So timing always matters when having that conversation, whether they're exercising and demonstrating they have met it, or they are establishing and discussing what is appropriate adjacent to that roadway.
I had a question there and I totally missed it, but I'll get back to it. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Noble.
Thank you, Mayor. Some other questions. What sort of studies have been done in preparation for the widening of 96? Traffic, safety, noise, and so forth?
Sure. So two traffic studies were completed in conjunction with the 96th Avenue CIP project, as well as the new high school site. And of course, those studies take into account consideration of roadway improvements, interacting with the students, et cetera. In addition to that, staff also conducted a noise study following CDOT guidelines for 96th Avenue last year.
Okay, good. And Councilmember Teeter, you mentioned 96 and Highway 2, something about the speeds. What was that? What were you, is the speed slower on Highway 2 than it is on 96?
No, but if the speed was where it was supposed to be, or where it used to be on Highway 2, truckers would probably use Highway 2 instead of 96th and Tower.
Could you be more specific?
Yeah, if you're coming from Aurora and you need to go to Commerce City to pick up a load of windshield washer fluid on 88th Avenue in Boston, but we used to go use Highway 2.
Hang on, that's specific, but I was looking for the speed.
Oh, well, I can tell you the speed.
Okay.
The Pacific, back in the old days, we used to just go to Highway 85, which turned into Highway 2, and take it up to 88, and we'd be there. Well, now it's easier to go take Tower to 96 and cut back.
Why is it easier?
Well, it's just, you get there quicker.
Is the speed?
The speed limit on Highway 2 slows you down.
Okay, so, all right, thank you very much. So that's something to look at as well. And I really appreciate everyone's ideas for policy and so forth on this issue. As Councilmember Douglas aptly pointed out, this has been a 40-year issue. So the folks who bought homes on 96 didn't necessarily know that it was going to be widened. They may have known it was a truck route, but they didn't know it was going to be widened to 4 lanes. So that's a considerable difference right there. And also, City Manager Rogers, how is 96th Avenue widening being funded?
All of it is being funded by the Cinderella 2K bond issuance that occurred in 2022, ma'am.
Okay, so it's all through our capital improvement projects. It's not being, no Metro District is being asked to participate in the widening?
No, ma'am.
And has any Metro District been asked to participate in the widening or any aspect of it in the past couple or 3 years or 4 years?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. And Chambers in 96, I heard you mention that was not an issue that was going to be resolved, and I wondered why. It's a tough turn for long trucks, and people have to back up in order to make room for the truck to actually make the turn.
I would have to get back to you with the exact engineering for why it won't be improved. All I can tell you is that's the one intersection that the widening project's not going to be able to address. But it's very difficult to add additional length and turn pockets without eating into the lanes for through traffic.
Okay, well, I know the Arsenal's on the south side, and the northwest corner has no construction on it. So it seems like there would be a possibility of having a conversation with someone to make that corner more workable for drivers and trucks. We might want to look at that. Regarding setbacks, we did put in the draft land development code 25-foot setbacks on certain streets, not on normal residential streets, but on a street like 96. We have asked for that, so that will help in the future, but it doesn't help in this particular case. And finally, could you give me, or for everyone who is listening, the link to the project page. And can I just say for a minute that there was a community meeting in June of this year at Bison Ridge Community Center, and unfortunately, we didn't get a lot of turnout. So when is the next one, Jenna?
Yeah, so great question. The next one we're actively working to schedule with Southlawn. We've requested a date in early October. That date has not yet been confirmed, so
Okay,
hopefully
that's
early
great.
October, that's the goal. We'd be getting information out to residents as soon as we're able to secure that date. As far as the link goes, I would need to check the link on my phone unless City Manager Rogers would not mind pulling that up for me. I can tell you though, when you're on our website and you go to the roads projects page, we do still need to add some additional projects, but there is a link directly from roads projects for 96th Avenue. So whether by the direct link or that link on the website, it should be pretty easy to find.
Okay,
So if you go to our website home, you hit the government tab, capital projects, road projects, you will find a dedicated page for 96th Avenue under that. So when you get to the home page, you click on government, capital projects, road projects, and then there is a landing page for the East 96th Avenue widening project.
okay, thank you. It was really important to me that we have this conversation, that this is a transparent process. So many people have come to me over the years that I've been on the city council about issues regarding 96th and trucks and truck traffic. And the fact that this is moving ahead, full steam ahead in most ways, I guess, and that there hadn't been serious conversations about it up to this point, I think is a shame. And I personally apologize for not bringing it forward sooner. But I'm glad we're having the conversation now. I think there are still some questions that are out there. I believe that we're going to be looking at walls and so forth at a future study session. Is that correct, City Manager Rogers?
I think, so just to put a finer point to that, what you all will get with 96th Avenue is a much broader update on where we're at with the construction of the current phase, what we're anticipating as the timeline for the follow-on phase. Once again, construction is built into 3 phases. We're currently working through phase 1. We can then advise you on that. We've talked about the sound walls, and I would say, generally speaking, in February, where we had a baseline setting conversation around expectation, the understanding of what analysis goes into that. We have taken an additional step of engagement within our community that ultimately will provide some feedback to the council that in a different form that is a little bit more sensitive in nature will allow for us to kind of talk through, I'll call it different scenario or circumstances of decisions that would be made that we would have to act on. So I don't think we will generally be speaking publicly about the feedback on the sound walls outside of what general participation we've gotten from the community of those that may be affected or benefit. But there will be a conversation with council in a protected forum because of some of the decisions and or circumstances behind those decisions that will have an effect in the community.
So are you saying that there are community members who live along 96th Avenue who have been asked about sound walls?
They will be. We're still working through the communications plan to make sure that we hit the mark on the appropriateness of the questions, the feedback that we're going to be looking to get back to be able to inform council about the decisions before them and how that then will relate into our implementation.
And if I may, that study session on 96th Avenue is coming September 22nd. So that will be held prior to that next public meeting, hopefully early October. So we won't have feedback from residents to share at the September session, but to the city manager's point, we'll be able to talk about the overall project as well as an engagement plan.
To that point, you still will get a conversation. You'll still have there will be a decision point based on the feedback once we have been able to compile it even if it's not in September, but you all will have that conversation so that we know how then to take action going forward.
All right. Thank you. That will be good, that we can have the conversation and that you will be having the conversation with the community that is affected. Will there be anything done on the city side about complaints regarding semi-trucks that are driving through neighborhoods? One of the photos that I received was a double long FedEx truck at Telluride and 88. That is one of those FedExes that bends in the middle. That's not making a delivery, I don't think. So should they contact the city, the police department?
They should contact the police department. I will say when I've received those from residents or from council, one of the primary things that we look for is a USDOT number. That USDOT number is an opportunity for us to be able to zero in on where it's located at, who the owner is, and we're able to make direct contact with them. We've done that in the past and have been able to have conversations and show the pictures and so forth. It's also then allowed for us to see if there's any certain patterns that are not just an outlier to that one day, if it's been building over a couple of days or weeks, so that we can then have our commercial motor vehicle units assigned. So that information and data is, immensely helpful for us. But obviously, outside of myself or going to council, I would always recommend that they call PD and be able to speak with our sergeant over the commercial motor vehicles unit, so that they have that information to be able to do follow-up.
Okay, and that'll be more important in the future, especially since we have a charter school there now and also a park coming. So there will be kids crossing the street with semi-trucks. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Artidi, did you have something?
Yes. I'm at double wide being off route. If you just, it had to be UPS or FedEx. It was FedEx. Okay. Well, I'm sure a double wide was, or a double hauler was over there. He was off route. If they would have called into FedEx, they have the capability to bring up his exact location. And even if they call in later, when he gets back in off his route, they can track every place he went with the technology they have today. But if you want to, if you call while it's going on, they can bring it up, and they got a camera on the guy while he's driving, so seeing where he's going, and they got a picture of what he looks like. Great. So, they have the technology out there, just a matter of using the services. And
That's great. Raymond, if you're listening, all of those pictures have a use.
But,
Put them to work.
the technology's there. It's just a matter of, and I'm talking about your big companies that follow the law, which would be UPS and FedEx and Safeway and Walmart and King Soopers, and those are your good trucking companies, but they've been known to go off route before also, and a lot of times it's for different reasons, but they're not supposed to do it. And normally when they do it, they get caught. Not normal. Well, I would say normally this day and age, they get caught if they go off route because the alarms go off in there. And I wanted to bring up some good news on E470 is those toll booths that used to be up there. They're going to convert those into, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah,
I know they're correcting them into charging stations and a place to where you can get a convenience stores, and I believe you can get diesel fuel there also. So this will get the trucks off from our roads and onto E470. And because they don't want to be in traffic either if they can avoid it. But and they're also trying to work on lowering the toll a little bit so we can attract more truckers to E470. And just a fun fact that I didn't know until just a few years ago, you can run from 40th and Colorado Boulevard, which turns into Highway 85, all the way to the Wyoming border and all the lights will be green if you just follow the speed limit. They're all synchronized, all those lights. And I've done it a number of times with cruise control, you know, the way it is, you have to adjust it, you know, depending on what the speed is. But believe me, if you just go, the only time you can't do it is if somebody hits a pole and knocks a light out in one area. Well, then it screws up the whole, it'll stretch from 40th all the way to the state line. But yeah, Highway 85 is synchronized all the way to the state line. So it can be done on Quebec.
Thank you. Councilmember Ford, did you have anything you want to?
Yeah, just because we're on the topic of trucks up in our northern area, I noticed that the southeast corner of Chambers, where the new car wash went in, and there's other buildable pads, those interior roads are getting lined with tractor trailers every night for places to park, because the drivers live in those neighborhoods or they get picked up. So it's becoming an issue there too. And I can see that being a bigger issue as time goes on. It's starting to attract that perspective of parking of trucks that's near your house. But if we get on it sooner, I think will be easier to deal with it than if we let it continue to grow. But just to keep in mind, when I go up through that area, in the afternoons, evenings, or on the weekends, those interior roads to that development are stacked with tractor trailers.
Are we talking about 103rd place? Are we talking about
120th? 120th in Chambers, southeast development, straight east of the 7-Eleven in that development there where the car wash is. I know those interior roads are getting stacked with tractor trailers, evenings and weekends.
103rd is a problem too.
103rd in Chambers?
Yeah, by the bus depot.
We'll look at that, thank you.
for the southeast?
By Revere and 103rd or down there.
For the southeast corner where we have that club car wash is what you're talking about?
Uh-huh.
That interior roadway structure is private, so we'll have to talk with the property owners about that.
Yeah, and I noticed that and even the old, up there by the Starbucks at 104th and Tower, there was a truck parked in there in an empty lot one day, and there was a note, please don't tow my truck, here's my phone number if I'm parked on someone's private property and you need me to move it. But one of the big issues, and we're gonna be impacted by it, and we already are, but there is no truck parking in the metro area. So when these trucks when they're hauling a load, and they need to stay over, they're trying to find, you go over by Bass Pro Shops, those roads are lined with tractor trailers because they're waiting to offload in the morning. And there's no truck parking in the state of Colorado anymore. So it's going to just get worse. It'll get worse for where they're parked. On 112th behind my house, there was always trucks parked, and I'm sure Councilwoman Chacon has seen it. They would park along 112th a lot. So having a diplomatic meeting with Colorado Motor Carriers in the state of Colorado, I think, is a good start.
Thank you. Well, on 96, since we're having a discussion, I think we have to do something. Not just talk to motor carriers, but also put some parameters, because I travel those roads a lot. 120th and Sable, you see Thornton trash trucks come over. We have all the trash trucks going over to dump, and they're using all the roadways. So I don't believe they should be able to come down from 120th to Chambers all the way down to 96. They need to go all the way up to Hype. They need to go up to Tower Road and go down, because they're cutting through the neighborhood. So we need to put signs up So they don't go down Chambers from 120th all the way down. Same thing from 104th to, on 104th on Chambers to 96, same thing. 96 was not, was a truck route because it was a rural road, and it went behind the Arsenal. And then when Buffalo Highlands decided to, borrow money, open that road up, it became a future road, and then we closed the one down, so it ended up being a trucking route, but it never was a trucking route all the way through. It was only halfway. And then to offset that back to 88th, that mean we're just putting the track through another neighborhood. So best thing we can do with trucks is just slow the speed down. Put the proper signage up, and that's for 96 corridor, 120th, and all that. So, and the reason why they use 96 too is because it's a concrete road. So is 104th. Those are all concrete. Tower is supposed to have been concrete. They ended up making it asphalt to save money. And then we didn't have that many trucks because we didn't have the on-ramp to Pena. So we didn't have warehouses. Now we have warehouses. So it comes with the territory. And I understand that, but we do have to do something though. Make improvements where we can. And so I think as far as truck route goes, Highway 2, we could increase the speed a little bit. There's no residents, no one living, no residential homes between 96 and Quebec. Shoot up the speed. People are, maybe 5 miles, see what it's like. But I think that corridor, it's safe. It's much better than it was before. We have shoulders now on the road. Before we didn't have shoulders. People are driving and they drop off. A lot of accidents. So those roads have been improved. We have lighting. Well, when we get lighting, that's going to help. But there's been major improvements on Highway 2. So I don't see any problems with raising up the speed limit on Highway 2. And then as far as Colorado goes, if we can go to that map on Colorado. So I would say there's going to be any improvements in Colorado. Yeah, we have the sand and gravel up top there. So anything from 70th going north, but they can't travel down past 68th. If there's any trucks that are at 68th or going south, they would have to reroute. So no traffic going north and south should be going past 68th to 70th. It's either one way or the other to get around. Take 74th to Dahlia or 72nd to Vasquez. So we can do something there. And I think we can do something temporary until we can get that.
We'll be contracting with that third-party engineering team to help us determine if it would be feasible to relocate and where. And then again, we'd have to partner with the other jurisdictions who have a stake in it, but we will be working on that.
Right. And myself and Councilmember Cheetah, we see CDOT a lot, and we compliment them for what they have done so far, because they have been doing some improvements, but we still pressure them to continue to make those improvements for long-term gain, not just patchwork. And again, we have asphalt, and Suncor, their producer of asphalt, they said they would help supply asphalt. We need it on the road. City Manager Rogers, you have?
Yeah, thank you for that, Mayor. I think you kind of heard, for just generally speaking around Colorado, we have to take some pragmatic steps with looking at the data and seeing where that data communicates or denotes with respect to the truck routes. And obviously we have to work with the county, given that we have the pockets of enclaves there as well. So there's gonna be a little bit of play there that we're gonna have to engage with our partners on. But I think just kind of recentering us, right? And I appreciate all of the suggestions about things that we need to do in the physical environment, right? The diplomatic conversation, once again, with the commercial motor vehicles as well as CDOT and others can happen unilaterally, but if wanting to make temporary, interim, or permanent changes to the truck routes that we've identified, right? We by ordinance have already granted certain level of rights for those type of users along roadways, particularly, right? 17th on the ordinance, number 17, Colorado Boulevard between 52nd, or excuse me, Brighton Boulevard and 74th Avenue, right? We've given a right for them to utilize that roadway for the purposes of their commercial motor vehicles. If we want to change that, once again, centering us back to the conversation at hand, the council should take some form of action in amending that ordinance that established those truck routes to looking at different routes. But I would say you'd want to base that off of the technical engineering and the analysis that our staff and or the third party would conduct and bring that back to you. So right, there's a confidence and a trust behind making that decision and that it's not going to have trickle-down effects upstream or downstream from those changes.
Okay. All right, thank you. And then let's see, the neighborhood meeting, we had a neighborhood meeting in June, and there were supposed to be one prior, just right after that, before school started, talked about Sound Law, because it was supposed to be prior to the water district tearing the road up, just to inform the residents what's going on there, because a lot of people were thinking they're gonna widen the road, but it ended up being South Adams Water putting in the water pipes right now, construction-wise.
I'm sorry, what's the question?
So we had the discussion, you guys did a neighborhood meeting at Bison Ridge, and that was on June,
Yeah, and the next one will
June 10th?
hopefully be early October. We're just waiting on South Lawn to confirm their availability.
Right. It was supposed to have been before school started, but and that's fine. Just that some of the residents were confused because when South Adams Water started to do the project for the water, putting the water pipes down, they actually thought that was going to be in conjunction with the road being widened. So
It is. So, I mean, they have to lay the pipe down first and
Right.
then we'll go back with the road widening.
Okay.
So it's overall an 18-month-long project, and to the city manager's point, we're only on phase 1 of 3.
right. I just think next time when we do this, because there's going to be more opportunities, so we get it ahead of the game before we start any kind of digging, so people actually know where they can get information from, and they can stay on track, because there's nothing wrong with what's going on. It's just the information wasn't available to them prior. So,
Thank you for that feedback.
thank you. All right. Councilmember Douglas, do you have something else?
Yeah, I thought we were separating 96 in Colorado, and I
Yes,
don't.
I'm sorry. Yes, we were.
Yeah, so it looks like we've moved on to Colorado. 25,000, I think that the people over in that neighborhood hear that you're going to bring in a third party for $25,000 without consulting them first. You're going to have a lot of people at that podium, I can guarantee you. I would say that you need to ask the experts who are the community members first. And you need to have a meeting at Alsop Elementary, and you need to find out what they think. Experts are great at things on paper, but they aren't necessarily, they don't know what it's like to live in the neighborhood. And so what they think is a solution to the problem is not always that. So I'm thinking that you're going to find your resolution for Colorado by going to the community, and that's my suggestion.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a part of the 68th Avenue Multimodal Project, we will be having public outreach that's led by the consultant to look at truck solutions for that area.
That's the problem. You're having it led by a consultant, and that's what happened with the Chambers Whiting meeting, and that's why it went off the rails, because the consultant was there, and the community, they weren't getting the answers that they wanted. And then we had members of staff show up, but it was after the fact. I was there.
Anyone has any other comments for recommendations for Colorado. Councilmember Ford.
Yeah, part of the problem is Colorado needs to be widened and rebuilt. And one of the biggest problems with Colorado Boulevard, Brighton Road, and everything is that the railroad tracks act just like the Arsenal does up north. It acts that way for the south because trucks cannot go on 60th Avenue underneath those train trestles. So the only roads that are available for a truck to go east is 56th Avenue or Highway 224. Those are the truck routes. That's where they got to go. At some point, and we had talked in the past, it would be great to get 60th Avenue to be even an at-grade crossing to make it straight instead of going underneath of those tunnels so that there is another way to get vehicles out, because once they're past 56th Avenue, they have to go all the way to 74th Avenue to be able to go east or west. They can't go either east or west unless they go up to 74th Avenue. So it's hard to eliminate the trucks on Colorado Boulevard or Brighton Road, because if they're going west, they're going to take Colorado Boulevard. If they're going east, they're going to take Brighton Road. And again, another state highway that is in terrible condition. It's every state road that runs through Commerce City needs to be fixed. And without having some dialogue with the state to get their roads fixed, our roads are going to continue to be the ones being used. But 60th Avenue should be looked at to get a crossing there instead of having just underneath those train trestles, because otherwise there's no other way for a truck to move. And I know there are some legal boundaries that they have to have the ability to get to and from where they're going. And right now, the only to and from where they're going is down Colorado Boulevard or down Brighton Road. And so we've got to fix some of those alternatives, because that's why 96 is the way it is. The Arsenal blocks it from getting to Tower, and the railroad tracks block the trucks getting off of Colorado or Brighton Road. So I think we need an overall look at a transportation plan, a real look at it of how we can increase better flows and reduce impact to our residents. But it's going to take some work by the state as well. And if we don't have a good relationship with Colorado State transportation, we're going to get nowhere. But it starts with our legislators, and we have to go down that path to get it done.
City Manager Rogers.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to kind of recap a conversation I know that we shared maybe a month, more than maybe a month just ago, around these topics of CDOT. We're very much aware of 224, 74th Avenue, Brighton Boulevard, 104th, being in some shape or form of disrepair, as well as 85. You know, we have been in some advanced conversations with CDOT in the devolution or devolvement of Brighton Boulevard. 224 is working its way through devolvement. Starting next year, maybe I'm getting it confused. They're actually starting a construction project in the January timeframe that's going to address some of that, I'll call it quality of level of service for their roadways. Honestly speaking, you know, I sent you all an email back in that time frame with a contact to CDOT, because we've kind of run the course at our level of engagement with the executive director and their staff about understanding the benefit and the purpose of supporting our needs for Brighton Boulevard. And they have stated to us, Brighton Boulevard, we shouldn't expect any type of devolution where we can take control of it until 2028 or 2029. And in that, we're more than likely not going to get the road at the highest appraised value to where we're taking it in under a condition to where maintenance and operation going forward from that time is going to be minimal to the city. So I you know, if I need to resend that email with that contact information, I will. But I think at that time, I think that was my request to the council about, hey, I need you all to engage above and beyond our connection points that we have access to on the day-to-day to help get some of that Transportation Commission support behind District 1 and working with us on a more efficient and effective timeframe for these roadways in this area to help improve the quality of life for the residents, improve the need for the businesses that use it, and also being able to get them off of our streets sooner and faster. So if I need to resend that email, I can dig it back up and shoot that contact information back out to you all. But just kind of recapping, we're kind of working at a snail's pace to kind of get to that next stage for Brighton Boulevard with them and maintaining at a higher level, as well as, well, they're already doing 224, but that's a 2 to 3 year project. So just putting it back out there for you all.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, to send that out would be great, because they do have a new director for Region 1, and we used to have Heather Berry. She used to do Bagels with Barry. They used to do a monthly meeting. She was part of the CDOT, and those meetings were really good. All right, Councilmember Teeter, you have one more thing?
Yeah, when Sean was talking about 60th and Brighton Boulevard there, it would change things if we could, once we start working on I-270, if we could move that bridge to the north side of I-270 and Brighton Boulevard, and that way our fire trucks would be able to go from Colorado Boulevard over to Brighton Boulevard. Right now, they can't get under the bridge, but we could put a underpass in that would be big enough for fire trucks and RTD buses to, or tractor and trailer to go use 60th. And that would make a difference in our traffic also.
Right.
In our transportation plan.
All right. So did you need some more, did you need clear directions on both items, or did you get enough information to go forward?
I think, to be honest with you, Mayor, what we have here was information on where we stand with how staff has evaluated under the current practices that we have in place. My comment about recentering the conversation kind of goes back to, if there's a policy decision that you want to make about the existing truck routes, there's actions that you all will need to take at future regular meetings. I think the importance of understanding the context from the night helps you all on having that conversation philosophically or policy-wise on what does that then look like. The conversations about Commercial Motor Vehicle Association, CDOT, that is something that I can advise my staff to be able to do. But if we're looking bigger picture about removing, adding, or creating different sections within the applicable truck routes adopted by ordinance, then we need to take action by an amended ordinance for that.
So is council okay with coming back with an amendment to amend the truck route on Colorado? To look at it? That was a recommendation by City Manager Rogers. Councilmember Dukes.
So I'm okay with looking at the data, having the third-party contract come and provide the community engagement as a part of what I'm hearing, part of the 6/8 project. They're going to listen to community. They're going to look at data experts and look at the possibility of and then provide alternatives for Colorado Boulevard. At that, or for the truck routes possible on Colorado Boulevard, right? At that point, I'll love to look at the data and then make a determination if there's a recommendation or ordinance for the change for Colorado Boulevard. As far as the truck route on 96th Avenue, based on what I saw tonight, I think we leave it as is. However, we continue to have a discussion in the near future around how this dovetails into our transportation master plan, so we can start thinking, 5, 10, 15 years out on what that looks like. That is what I would prefer.
Okay, I want to ask the council, there's been a lot said tonight about 96. Is council okay looking at making some minor improvements to the truck route up on 96, 104th, making sure that the trucks don't go through the neighborhoods and that they're well-informed, especially for the trucks that do operate within our city boundaries? Is everyone okay with making those minor changes to 96? Councilmember Teeter.
I think our main thoroughfares should be truck routes. 96 should always be a truck route. Chambers should be a
But
truck.
not through the neighborhoods.
Pardon?
But not through the neighborhoods.
Well, where's the neighborhoods at? I mean, Tower's got
Chambers?
neighborhoods on it. Highway 2 has neighborhoods on it.
Right, but what I'm talking about is there's Chambers. We have trucks coming down from 120th down to 96. They should be just using 104th corridor, 96th corridor up to Tower and not cutting through. You're also cutting through the neighborhoods within Reunion as well.
Well, they shouldn't be on the side streets at all.
they
but-
shouldn't.
But
So I'm just
Chambers
asking,
isn't a side street.
well, no, parts of Chambers. So we do have homes.
I mean, it should be, no, Chambers should be no different in Commerce City than it is in Denver and Aurora.
Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
just for some further clarity for council. Currently, 96th Avenue is a truck route.
Right.
Telluride, Landmark, Reunion Parkway, where we're experiencing the cut-through traffic are not identified truck routes. So you would not be changing anything. With what I'm hearing based on the conversation back and forth, you wouldn't be changing anything underlying with the discussion that you're having right now. I mean, the policy question in the main that I'm hearing from council is 96 or is not 96 a truck route? And if not, right, there is an impact that will then be felt on other roadways. Now, what you've heard from us tonight is an analysis from our staff that is I'll call it high-level pros and cons of what you would gain, what you would not gain, and you've heard more cons. If you're really wanting to take that next step of removing 96th Avenue from a truck route, you're gonna really want to dive into the analysis of, we talk about impacted intersections. Well, what does that then really mean at 104th? Are you going to have to widen those intersections? What's the cost associated with that versus with what we have on 96th Avenue? So to me, any discussion that we're having tonight is really about, do you take that next level of analysis at 104th, 120th? And then to come back to you all before making any decisions about interim or permanent improvements to that roadway as well as the Colorado.
Okay, that's fine. Is council okay with that recommendation?
I have.
Mayor Pro Tem Noble?
Thank you very much. I think that there's several steps that need to be taken on 96th Avenue to alleviate the issues. And if we can begin there, that would be extremely helpful. Keeping an eye on the trucks that are getting off the road and cutting through the neighborhoods. Also, ensuring that there is enforcement of the speed limit on 96th Avenue. We need to consider more traffic lights, traffic signals on 96 so that people who are trying to get out of their neighborhoods are able to do so. That was Walden, Second Creek Parkway, in addition to Landmark. We do need some sort of barrier, whether it's steel or whatever, to ensure that people don't go off the roadway and cause, drive into people's yards. That has happened before. I don't think that 120th should be left out of the mix, by the way. That will be a 4-lane highway and can be used as such. I see side streets as being an issue, as you were noting, Councilmember Teeter, is that we need to avoid that problem and also figure out a way for drivers to store their cars overnight or enforce the fact that they're not supposed to be parking, whether it's at 103rd Place and Revere, or up at 120th, or even in the streets by State House. I've seen some trucks in there as well. I know they have to get off the road at 12 hours, or there's some sort of rule like that, but we have to be able to live with the trucks that are here, but at the same time, as Councilmember Douglas pointed out, they are our guests, if you will, and need to follow the rules of the community. So let's start by fixing 96 in the interim so that when the widening comes, that we will already have these things in place. Truckers will know that this is already happening on 96. And also, as Councilmember Teeter mentioned, making certain that speed limits and road improvements, as Councilmember Ford pointed out, have been accomplished so we can spread out some of this truck traffic instead of focusing it in certain areas. But I will encourage the residents of that area along the 96 corridor to start reporting all of the truckers who abuse the rules of the road. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Ford?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of information that we need to what we can do and what we can't do. I'd like to have the attorney look into what are the laws when it comes to a semi-truck driving in a neighborhood. If my understanding is if they're making a delivery or a pickup, if it's a house moving semi-truck, you can't stop them from going to and from their locales. So I know full build out, 120th is going to be 6-lane divided, 104th is going to be 6-lane divided, Chambers is going to be 6-lane divided, High Plains Parkway is going to be 6-lane divided. There's going to be a lot of changes in some of these roads. And if you take a road that is currently a truck route and you designate it no longer a truck route, we're going to have just as many upset citizens based on where those trucks are going to go to get through our community. Do I want them driving through River Run or through Reunion? No, I don't. But I also don't want to complicate it to where they end up putting more trucks through neighborhoods trying to navigate a lack of truck routes. So I think that we need to know what the laws are, what this body has the ability to do based on those laws, on stopping trucks from going certain places. I think that'll make a difference. But if you just say neighborhoods, 56th Avenue has neighborhoods, Quebec has neighborhoods, 96 has neighborhoods, Chambers has neighborhoods. So I don't want to be vague. I'd like to know exactly where you don't want to allow trucks that they can currently go today. If they're currently going somewhere they shouldn't be going, no, I don't want them there. But if they have a right to be where they're at now and it's something you want to shut off, I need to know from this point to this point in this area to see if it's going to negatively impact another area of our city. So I'd like a little more information on exactly what we're trying to do or not do.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Teeter?
Yeah, something else just popped into my mind here. On that double, guy hauling doubles off route, if there was an accident down the road and a police officer rerouted him to go around the, certain areas, once those trucks get to going in certain areas, there's no backing up with the guys hauling doubles. So they have to continue through. So there may be some other circumstances, or the guy could have just been off route going to see his girlfriend. I don't know. But there could have been other circumstances. But more I think about 96 is we need to make 96 a safe route for trucks, plain and simple. Make it wide enough so that they can go through, and the noise level's not going to change from 2-lane to 4-lane. It's going to be the same. It's just it's not going to change.
Thank you, Councilmember Teeter. All right, well, a lot's been said, a lot of information out there, so we expected to, oh, Councilmember Kim.
I think the look at, I think what Mayor Douglas had said previously, as far as us being able to look at the roads that are not designated truck routes, a little bit more enforcement there, is needed. 96 being a truck route, I think, us as a city, as a body should be able to look at, some additional, whatever you call them, sound walls, sound barriers, whatever the case may be, and maybe some additional safety precautionary measures that could be potentially put in place. But also the idea from what Councilmember Ford said, I mean, I think the understanding what is our left and right limits would be something I think that we would need to know. And then back to what I said earlier regarding, if residential, right? So if more homes are going to be built and it is along a truck route, then I think during public hearings and all those are questions that we could definitely ask as far as what our setbacks are, or maybe change something within policy. But that's all I've got.
Okay, thank you. All right. City Attorney Zarzaki.
Thank you, Mayor. Just real quick, and Councilmember Ford, I can certainly look into this more. My first thought would be that it's probably governed under the model traffic code. And there are additional provisions that the prior council has adopted. There is a weight limit on certain streets and parts thereof provision that we have that very clearly says if we have designated official signs saying this is the weight limit in certain areas, then any vehicle that weighs more than that is not allowed. Additionally, no vehicle with a gross weight of over 8,000 pounds shall be allowed within any residential district unless the vehicle has obtained a transportation permit from the Department of Public Works or is performing a service for a destination within the neighborhood where such vehicle is operating. So that is, at a quick glance, what our existing code language is, but I can look at the actual model traffic code.
All right, thank you. Okay, City Manager Rogers reports.
Thank you, Mayor. Couple of items for you all. Staff's going to be calling a special meeting for September 8th. Purpose for that special meeting will be for the opening of the budget workshop. In that, the September 8th meeting is a study session. If there's any guidance or additional direction that the council would want, you'd want to be able to do so under that. So we will be sending a call to the mayor to have just for the 2026 Budget Council Workshop as a special meeting, Highway 2 Corridor Study Update, and the Emergency Operation Plan within advance as a study session discussion. A couple of other updates for you. Today, staff had a kickoff meeting as part of the Cities of Opportunities Community Health and Wellbeing Accelerator Cohort. This is a one-year opportunity for us to navigate the challenges associated with well-being and how to improve well-being in our community. We are one of a handful of cities, Lawrence, Indiana, Providence, Rhode Island, Las Vegas, Nevada, Miramar, Florida, and Paris, California, participating. What we hope to walk away at the end of this one-year cohort are tools and practices how to help our residents thrive and create some meaningful futures. So only a handful of communities were selected nationwide. We happen to be one of them. So pretty excited for the kickoff that occurred today. Still looking for vendors for Hispanic Heritage Month celebration. Right now, we're accepting applications for craft, artisan vendors, snacks and drink vendors, informational resource booths, as well as cultural displays and demonstrations. The Hispanic Heritage Celebration event will be held on Sunday, September 21st. In Public Works, the city's brought sign making in-house. That's important because it allows for us to be able to provide a quicker response and more efficient operations when we need new signs. Just last week, we noticed that we had 25 signs down. We were able to get those 25 signs back out after our inspection and identification on our roadways. So that's a huge thing. And then just with parks operations, just last week, as they were driving around and noticing on our right-of-way medians, we had collected enough trash, around 33 bags of total trash and debris from sidewalks, from medians. And we have our teams dispatched throughout the entire week. And just on 96 alone, we had 14 bags of trash within that right-of-way. So, you know, we hear the concern and the issues around the community appearance, particularly within our rights of way. Our public works team is taking it serious. We are out there. We are collecting significant numbers of trash and debris on a weekly basis. This is just to share with you all that our teams are out there working hard to once again meet the needs of the broader community. We also received 3 grants from the Adams County Open Space: $750,000 for Pioneer Park improvements, $50,000 for Second Creek Trail planning, and $5,750 for interpretive signage at Kalu Park and Second Creek Trail. PD, we held our 5th annual Kurt Holland Memorial Golf Tournament, which raised an estimate of more than $82,000 for scholarships, breaking the prior tournament record in 2022. And obviously, we all have been aware about what's going on, or lastly, we've been aware of what's been going on, or just from concerns, issues, complaints with urban encampments within our community. I know myself, I've shared some data with you about the actions that we've been able to take in our community since council provided support for increased enforcement. We are working on a communication platform to be able to share the assessments, the average assessment response time, postings, and how and when sites have been cleaned and removed with the general public, so that we are not just educating them on what and how we have to go about enforcing our rules and regulations, but when and where and how we've identified them and are taking action and sharing that data and information transparently with the community. So that is in the works, and hopefully we will have that up and running in a reasonable time frame going forward. But I just wanted to share that with you all, as well as the community, that we are working on ways to improve the communication out to them.
Any questions for City Manager Rogers? Councilmember Dukes.
Just want to say thank you for you and your team to think through a communication approach for the urban encampments. I know it is a big frustration for a number of residents, but I don't know if everyone understands the complexity of it, where there's been a lot of work taking place from the city and your team, but it's hard to quantify it or show it because people move, right? The encampments move to different parts of the city. So looking forward to seeing more of that data and being a part of that communication of what's happening and what we can do as a city, so that everyone sees improvement in different types of ways. Thanks.
City Manager Rogers, are we working with the City of Denver and other outlying cities, or our neighbors, with this effort and homelessness and unhoused?
That's a great question, Mayor. We've had conversations, we've had discussions with respect to Adams County as well as the City and County of Denver. When we're thinking about some level of regional consortium or cohort to kind of lead across boundary lines, that's where I kind of turn my hat to the county, knowing that they should be at the table with us and really thinking about the philosophical approach and what they're able and how they're willing to support the concerns and issues that we're having here. So I can't speak for where the county's at on that. I know we've expressed an interest and a desire to want to engage and to have those conversations with them, as well as the other municipalities. And I would say my sister municipalities have also expressed a desire to re-engage on that. But right now, we're having really one-off conversations, and we need someone to have that commonality to bring us together. And that typically starts with the county, whether it's City and County of Denver or Adams County, who provide those human and health services that can really galvanize and be able to move things forward.
Okay. And then with the clubhouse, where we at with that contract?
We're still going through the design process, Mayor.
Okay. Councilmember Kemp, did you have a question?
No, I think more so just a statement. Jason, thank you to your and your guys' cleanup crew who actually does what they can to clean up the city. I did meet with a resident this over the weekend who lives is what's called the Dunes. The Dunes are pretty much on 112th. Sorry, it's 112th and what's that road?
Highway 85?
Creek area, yeah. So the whole Bell Creek area too. She actually goes out on her own. Her name is Janet, who will go out on the streets herself and actually pick up all the trash that she cans and sees. And she told me that she picked up four tractor trailer tires along the road this past Sunday. So I would just and I mentioned to her also about we do have a hot shot crew essentially that goes out to take care of this. And one of the issues that she had was utilizing the Access C3 app. That's where I think that there was some questions earlier when Travis was presenting as far as there are some folks who are, I'll just say, don't quite understand or how to use the app, so they want to find a way to make a phone call somewhere or wherever the case is. But I did tell her just let me know and let me know if in the future because I know she wants to try to keep her community area safe, not safe, but more clean than anything. But I did tell her just in the future if you ever need for trash to be picked up or whatever, let me know and I can help with submitting that request through the system themselves. So that's all. But I would ask for request that your team actually go out in that area as well to take a look, to help with cleanup as well. That's all.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Noble.
Thanks very much. I wanted to ask a question about commercial property along 104th, particularly right there by 104th and Chambers. It doesn't appear that the businesses are taking care of their right-of-ways or the property around their buildings, and they have dried out and become overrun by weeds. Do we have any kind of policy or ordinance regarding
We
that?
do. Yes, ma'am. That's a great question. We do. They are, required to meet their development plan, landscape plan requirements in and around the property that they're to maintain, as well as the payment conditions interior to their parking lots and the like. So we can just generally have no different than what Mr. Kim was asking. We can have in this case, code enforcement go out to assess and to see what needs to be done for proper maintenance and care of those associated properties.
Yeah, I could name a few: fast food, bank, a lot of places, pharmacy, mechanics. Whole bunch of people are having this problem. Over the weekend, there was a rash of young people, and as young as 7 or 8, in the Reunion area driving two-wheel vehicles, either electric or motorized. It was hard to tell. They don't have license plates. They aren't necessarily watching for other cars or watching for, following the rules of the road there's a stop sign or something like that. They're using speed bumps as ramps. I am very concerned about the safety and welfare of these children. I know it's their parents choosing to allow them to do this. However, I wouldn't want to be the person who hit them. And I think that we as a city need to do some educating, perhaps some sort of communication about what could happen, social media. If this is illegal, which I presume it is, they're driving in the street, Parkside Drive, driving around Landmark Academy, driving around Reunion Park. It's really very, very extensive. Had you heard that before?
I can't say that I've heard this particular issue with youths of all ages on two-wheelers within that particular part of the community. I know we've just talked about, I don't want to say motorbikes, but this is more along your electrified kind of skateboard, scooters, things of that nature I'm hearing, or all I can say, ma'am, is I need to digest that and kind of think about what's an appropriate action or reaction that we can take to what we're hearing tonight and see what can be done. Some of that may be a straightforward response with what we're doing in the field. Some of that may need to be a conversation with the city attorney's office. But what I can say is I appreciate that you brought this to our attention, and we can have the right staff around the table to talk about what we should and can, or what we can't do, and then get back to council accordingly on what we've heard and what we've done. So, but the first step is I need to digest.
Okay, and I know that at least 2 of the 6 were reported to the police, and we do have videos that people have provided as well. So those can be spliced together or something and sent to, edited and sent to you, so you can see the degree of the problem.
I would always welcome some level of evidence or information that can help us be able to really, dial in on what that issue is, what the questions need to be asked internally, and then obviously get back to the full council.
All right, and another person had asked about a light at Parkside Drive North and Landmark, and they don't ever pull rank, but they do work for one of the other government agencies. And he's been waiting a long time about this light and about how dark it is at that point, and has been told now that it depends on what happens with the budget. And I said, well, we don't get that level of detail in the budget to know whether your light is in there or not, and whether we're saying yes to your light or whatever. So how would I best learn what its status is?
Great question. Obviously, we have, I think it depends on, one, if it is a utility that's owned by the city, then obviously we have a street light. We have a street light program.
It's a light to come in. He wants a light constructed.
Like and when I mean street light, not a traffic light, a street light for visibility. We now as a city have a street light program where we have a list of what we're identifying as our responsibility and how to maintain it. If it's something that's under United Power, that's a different conversation. I'm not saying that it is, but you raised it tonight. I can have the conversation with the Public Works Director and see where that stands for that particular corner of, you said Parkside and Landmark, correct?
Parkside Drive North.
North side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, no, I'm sorry, Parkside Drive. Oh, well, never mind. I'll get it to you tomorrow.
Thank you, ma'am.
And Jason, one more question about, did we ever get that new grader in that can have different levels and pivot? Because I know Public Works had ordered that, and they were waiting for it to do some.
That's a question I will have to follow up with you tomorrow, Mayor, after talking with Public Works on where we're at with equipment.
Okay, because it has to do with Old Mill Road. They were going to fill those big potholes with, dirt and pack it down.
Okay. Yeah, I will have to have that conversation. I can't speak to it tonight, but we're taking those down so that we can have some follow-up action.
Okay.
Or get you some information.
All right, appreciate that. City Attorney Zarzaki, welcome back.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I appreciate that. One real quick thing, please everyone check your emails. Paralegal of mine, Elizabeth Kern, sent an email this afternoon. There's a handful of you that need to respond to a litigation hold. If you have not done so, please do so. If you have any questions on that, feel free to reach out to me and I can walk you through it tomorrow. That is it. I will also take note of Councilmember Ford's question, and I will get you all something in writing with regards to the operation of large vehicles in residential areas. So I've already got that on my to-do list for tomorrow. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Any council members have any questions for our attorney? He's back. Thank you. All right, any council members have reports? Councilmember Dukes.
Yeah, I just want to report, I was able to go to the Speak Up event at Eagle Point. Thanks, staff, for staying and having your extended hours, and thanks to the community members that really participated, and I thought it was a great event. The other one I just report, I participated in a Parks, Rec, and Golf committee earlier this week, and so thanks to the chairs there, and had a great meeting.
Thank you. Councilmember Douglas. Oh, I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem Noble.
Thank you. Yes, I really enjoyed going to Speak Up at Eagle Point. I appreciated the opportunity to speak with everyone, and we have such similar issues. And I say we in similar in terms of me representing the northeast quadrant, is that they want a new grocery store and they want new restaurants also. So we're all on the same page on that topic, that's for sure. And I also attended the appreciation picnic for staff. What a monstrous turnout that was. That was really impressive. And I had the chance to go up to as many tables as possible just to thank people for the time that they put in the community and the effort and their commitment. It's really very much appreciated. At Speak Up, someone told me that 5,000 people applied for jobs in Commerce City this year, and for 36 openings. So I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that was someone from Human Resources. So I also took the opportunity to tell people congratulations on being employed as well. That's important in this day and age as well. So thank you all for all you do, and I think it looked like it was a really special month for everyone who works for Commerce City and works for the community. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Douglas.
I attended the Cultural Council meeting and the Youth Commission meeting. They were both good meetings. I also attended the Speak Up Commerce City session that was held at Eagle Point. And I'm looking forward to the one that is going to be held at Bison Ridge in September. I thought it was a great way to have the city interact with the community, and I thought it was very successful and well done. And I was going to do a report on my attendance at the Housing Authority, but after looking back at my notes, I decided that I needed to do a little bit more of an analysis of what I should be presenting to council, so I won't be doing that tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Sorry couldn't make it to the Speak Up. There was a conflict in schedule. And I appreciate those members. That's why there's 9 of us for participating in that. Councilmember Teeter.
Yeah, I'd like to commend whoever's idea that was to set up the Speak Up thing. I seen a lot of residents that were going home happy. Well, not happy, but happier, a lot happier. But I think it was a great event, and it was very educational for the residents, and I wish we could find a better way of bringing more people in to use that program, but it was very successful, so thank you.
Sure. So at Dr. Cog, we talked about the uniform planning workshop, work program, which is a senior planning transportation for 2026, 2027. And then there's a corridor transportation planning section. And then also the 2050 Regional Transportation Plan update. They moved it from 2040 to 2050. And City Manager Rogers, do we have any new projects to submit to CDOT or Dr. Cog in our region?
That's another question I will have to circle back up, Mayor, with our Public Works team.
Okay. All right, thank you. I want to thank Commerce City and Commerce City Police for, again, having a Kirk Harlan golf tournament. It was, again, well-staffed, and as far as if we had any more carts to put out there, we would. But everybody seemed to had a really good time. Got to visit with Kirk's parents and his wife and other family members, and it was a great turnout. Councilmember Teeter and I were on a team with former Councilmember Ricky Teeter and his son played. So we did all right. We didn't get the lowest score, and we didn't get the highest score, so we did well. So, and also want to thank the city as well for the barbecue. That was a great opportunity for us to see all our employees out celebrating City Employment Day. That's great with rapport and three events week after week. So I think, and just to see people actually taking the time to come eat and not feel like their pressure to get back out to work so soon, make those connections in the heat. So that was another thing too. All right. See no further business. It's 9:13. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Chacon.
Oh, no, I was just saying thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. I'm looking for a hand.